you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, hata kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
SpiceFM.
I would be very surprised if there was traffic on a day like this, and so I'm surprised that on Mombasa Road there's just a smidgen of it, but it's not looking too bad, especially right around that Imaradima stretch. Everybody else is asleep this morning. It looks like those who are on the roads are enjoying a swell time because nobody else is. We're going to have a look at what it looks like in a short while as folks get up here and there on this day after Jamboree Day. So all across the city and indeed across the country, folks are taking it easy. But let's have a look at what it looks like in a short while. SpiceFMKE on Twitter, just in case anything does go south. Text on 40127. Things are moving. Let's keep it that way.
Broadcasting worldwide, Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Happy post-Jamboree Day.
Is the
How
situation.
are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. The day after Jamboree, the 13th of December 2021. We're here and it's a public holiday in the Republic of Kenya. Good morning to you. If you're tuned in from anywhere within the country or wherever you are around the world, let us know shortly. Eric Ndu and C.T. Muga in the house. Ndu?
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of weekend did you have?
What kind of weekend did I have? It was quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't make any noises?
I did not.
Okay.
Is
Is that a good or a bad thing?
It depends. I maintained silence.
Okay. How are you?
Fine. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Weekend, good.
Did you watch my Jamboree Day thingy? The Jamboree Day celebration.
Mashujaa Day and Jamboree Day.
And
Madaraka.
Madaraka Day. And Raila.
Uhuru.
Okay.
You know, the speeches can more or less be foretold. What might be said, what might not be said. There'll be a bit where Kenyans are being thanked for being resilient, always. And there'll be the things we need to do. And then there'll be the come-together speech of we as Kenyans must...
Call for patriotism.
Yes, and we must be nationalistic. And then throw in that Uhuru Gardens construction that is being as part of this bid to ensure that Kenyans see themselves as Kenyans and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's the show of everybody, those who supposedly or purportedly are not on the same camp politically, coming together, shaking hands, beaming the lights out of the headlights of any vehicle or a strobe light. So the thing is, it can be choreographed.
Indeed.
Okay?
Yeah.
When you say we have Uhuru Day, the thing that comes to my mind, we have to go back to 1963 and talk about the things that the founding fathers said they were going to do. And how far it is we are from realizing those dreams.
You know what? You're mirroring what Raila Odinga said yesterday in his brief remarks after the president spoke. That you cannot talk about the future without looking historically on the past.
That is always my sentiment, that it's not just for this day. Every other day when we celebrate something that happened in the past is supposed to remind us of who we are. It cannot be that a very large number of our people are on the throes of hunger and destitution.
Indeed.
And we are talking about these splendid achievements we've made technologically, we've made in our advancement towards rights, and we have. That is the truth. We have. But of what significance is it when such a large majority of our people are not enjoying it at all and don't even understand that it exists for them? Of what use is it? It makes sense when the humblest and the simplest of our citizens can talk about them enjoying these benefits that we're saying.
Right.
And they can more or less take it for granted.
And can see the progression over time, that this is what it was 10, 20 years, 50 years ago.
Yes.
And this is how then we have seen things have gotten better and we are enjoying the fruits of that.
Directly.
Must
Now,
be.
when we get to that, they have been really significant changes and they've been beneficial. But it's being marred by what we currently have, because this is also significant. The problems that we're talking about, they are really significant.
So in answer to your question, Eric, when you ask City, how are you? City is fine.
City.
He's okay.
Okay.
And you, how are you?
I'm fine.
Super duper.
I'm very well, thank you. Yes. It was a good weekend. A sad one on Saturday. I buried a cousin.
Oh dear.
But she rests. She was unwell, then she rests.
Oh dear. Children?
Yes. One daughter. Yeah. One young adult daughter. It's 13 minutes after 6. Okay, tell us about COVID.
Okay, let me do that really quickly. A COVID update from around the world. 270 million is what we're looking at now. Cases rising. That is the case. And the very interesting things that are happening around the world, right? Now, Brazil. Do you remember Brazil? Right? In the throes of COVID, really took a hit when it came to the Delta variant. Even before that, Bolsonaro deciding or not deciding on what to do when it came to COVID, but was insisting, no lockdowns, nothing like this happened. COVID had its way. Now, Brazil is demanding proof of vaccination from foreign visitors. We're going to do whatever we want to do in this country, but if you are coming in, you must have been vaccinated. Do not come and infect us, regardless of what's happening here. Remember, Brazil has one of the highest infection rates in the world. Supreme Court judge in Brazil has ruled that foreign visitors will need to provide a COVID-19 vaccination certificate to enter the country. The ruling invalidates regulations issued previously by the National Health Agency demanding only a negative PCR test for foreign arrivals. It would be impossible to check all visitors and prevent the spread of the new Omicron variant, according to the judge. And of course, we've seen lenient measures had made the country popular among non-vaccinated tourists. So the way in which they had been previously behaving, like, anything goes. Now tourists who are coming into Brazil are like, hold on a minute.
So who took this matter to the Supreme Court?
Okay, so...
you read a bit of that story. It's interesting.
Okay, so what had happened is that... the ruling is seen as another defeat for President Jair Bolsonaro, who has repeatedly undermined efforts to control the spread of the virus in one of the world's hardest hit countries by the pandemic. The president, who says he has not been vaccinated, had denied requests of the health agency and visa to demand vaccination proof from visitors. So Judge Luis Roberto Bossaro said exceptions would be made for those coming from countries that had been unable to vaccinate most of their populations. They will need to quarantine for up to 5 days. It is not clear when the new requirements will be made. Okay, so we have to dig in a little bit in terms of who brought this case then to court. But from these indications, it's that this organization, and they're called the Health Agency and Visa, who was demanding vaccination proof from visitors. But I'll get you those details in a bit.
Hey.
But this is what we're looking at now. So lenient measures previously, huge numbers in terms of infections before that. The rest of the world was looking on and say, okay, well, you're not enforcing these inside, so we can just come in and do as we please. Well, health agency says absolutely not. If you're coming in, be vaccinated. President had he himself had said, it's okay, let people come. He himself has not been vaccinated.
Yeah, no need to prove vaccination.
And he himself has been hospitalized with COVID.
Yes, he has had COVID before.
So what really are we dealing with here? Is it somebody who is a president who's exercising his rights? And then it brings about the debate of what really should his role be as president. Yes, there's Bolsonaro, the citizen, but as the president, what should his role be? How ought he to present himself in light of this pandemic to his countrymen and women, to his fellow citizens? And how does he lead the charge? How does he ensure the safety? And how does he deal with this clearly serious problem that his country has with COVID?
It's crazy.
What is even crazier is when you have a pandemic amidst a political problem. Because then it becomes difficult to draw the line between playing politics for survival and at the same time ensuring that the health needs of your citizens are actually taken care of. Yes.
It's an interesting on this one. Well, the requirement was just come with the PCR test and quarantine. Then there was a push now by the health agency to go for proof of vaccination before you're allowed into the country. And the president was saying, no, let's not go that far. The Supreme Court says, no, let's go that far.
Does that not present a conundrum? But then look at the UK now, who are talking third dose, okay, wanting to vaccinate 1 million people a day.
Okay, so it's interesting. Just because on that, it was a special Senate committee then that petitioned to then have Bolsonaro and these...
Oh, it's a Senate committee that took the matter to court.
Right. And
that's what they wanted.
Yes. And so the court has backed that petition.
It's basically, it's a political fight here. It's a political fight, an election coming up. It's like you said, City, it's when politics comes in the middle of
a pandemic.
Yeah. Because remember, what was his focus? Should we insist on vaccinations, or right now, what are we doing? Let's, have cash handouts to people. He was still going and having political rallies, talking to...
he was doing a Kenyan thing.
He didn't hide back. He said, what we need to do now is protect livelihoods. We're not talking about a disease.
Yeah. And you actually want to ask, couldn't you do both?
I want to guarantee you that whoever takes over, even if Bolsonaro loses, whoever takes over, there's not going to be much change.
No.
In terms of how this approach is going to be.
In that regard, I actually support you, because you are talking about a politician who is where he is because he must understand the pulse of his people.
Yep.
So he's responding to things that we may not understand, but he knows are pertinent. Yes.
It's 20 after 6. Let's take this quick break, and then we'll be looking at the headlines shortly. Are you online? We are SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Say hello to us. Say happy post-Jamboree Day. We're saying the same to you shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Famous, the secrets we keep, live La Liga action. Offer Showmax Black Friday special imeingia. Lipa for 1 month and get a second month sare. Yani 2 whole months of the biggest shows in Kenya, na English Premier League futa, and lots more. Zote kwa 1 low price only on Showmax. Offer inachomoka soon, so sign up chap at showmax.com.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie.
Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Guys, dinner is ready.
Please pass the chicken.
Wow, Mom, the chicken looks yummy. Get ready to dig in.
Without a doubt, Kenchik chicken is usually the star attraction on dinner tables across Kenya because we place the highest priority on the health of the chicken we farm and the goodness of the food we provide. This is strengthened by our absolute certainty of traceability from our farm to your family. Kenchik, we're cuckoo about tasty chicken.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 15 today. It's mostly clear at 18 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 14. We're looking at a low of 12 in Nyeri, where it's mostly cloudy currently at 16. It'll go to highs of 23. We'll see highs of 25 in Eldoret, that's mostly clear currently. And in Mombasa this morning, mostly cloudy conditions at 25 with highs of 31. We'll see lows of 24. Mostly cloudy in Malindi at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Kisumu is clear at 20, highs of 31 and lows of 19. And we're looking at clear conditions at 19 in Kakamega with highs of 32. We'll see lows of 17. Kampala is mostly cloudy at 19, highs of 28. We're looking at rain this morning in Dar es Salaam at 24 with highs of 30. Johannesburg is also raining at 16, highs of 19 and lows of 14. It's mostly clear at 26 in Lagos with highs of 33. Mostly clear conditions at 23 in Kinshasa, highs of 31 and lows of 23. Looking out into Beijing into afternoon, it's 1 degree, it's sunny, highs of 4 and well below freezing will be the low today to -7. Cloudy conditions at 9 in Paris, highs of 10 and lows of 6. While in New York, it's partly cloudy. Rather, in London, it's partly cloudy at 11 with highs of 12 today. New York is clear at 7 till Sunday night. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 10 and lows of 4.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
23 minutes after 6. We are online. Are you?
Quite a number of people online this morning. Zephan Namugoy is tuning from Uganda this morning. And just over the pond, Hams Way is tuning from Zambia. Stanley Gashistan says, good morning. Happy Jamboree Day. Yeah? The day after, right. So he says, our brother from Kisumu City, not quite sure who, our brothers from Kisumu City are celebrating it differently with the launch of car-free Saturdays, which has taken effect over the weekend. Vehicles and motorcycles will be barred from accessing the city's CBD every Saturday from now on. Interesting. Daniel Jamboree, says he's in this morning. And Kibagendi Lorna tuned in from Kisi this morning. Kijana Paulo says, good morning, tuned in from Nyakach, and Charity is in this morning as well. Shem Ongwai tuned in from Nakuru County. Hannington Chumba says something interesting this morning. Septic shock is the deadliest condition right now. Could you create some awareness about that? I think we have to find out what that is, first of all. But he says good morning all the same.
These are with regards to COVID.
Yes. Let's see what that could be.
All right.
Good morning, folks, and thanks for joining us today.
Welcome, everybody, City.
Giza, ama kwa giza, usifiatue mshale.
Kwa giza usifiatue mshale.
Yes. Kufiatua is to shoot.
Don't shoot in dark.
Yes.
What's the other thing? Shoot
Mshale. Mshale.
Mshale.
Kufiatua.
Arrow.
Arrow. Okay.
So now?
In the dark? Don't shoot arrows in the dark. Or you don't shoot arrows in the dark. C'est ça?
This proverb here speaks more of the consequences rather than the action, because the action will have consequences.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
You know what that means.
Yes.
Kwa giza usifiatue Mshale.
So sometimes you get the impression when people utter things, they say things, or they start a process, wanafia tu mshale kwa giza. Because essentially, you probably haven't taken a full account of the possible consequences.
Yeah.
Yes. And usually the consequences have one definition. They come home. It doesn't matter what you do. They'll come home.
There'll be consequences. Let's look at the newspaper headlines. Standard e-paper, accessible from standardmedia.co.ke, 20 shillings every day. Make sure you subscribe today and you get access to the entire Standard newspaper on your digital devices. So what's in the headlines is, of course, about yesterday's events at the Uhuru Gardens. First of all, the beauty of the Uhuru Gardens. Okay. Well, we've been seeing, so it was closed down so that the military can come in and do some renovations. And then the president mentioned a number of things that are happening there now. There's the construction of a museum. There are other facilities that give you the history of the Republic and where we've come from. There's a history itself of the grounds themselves. And I think that's a brilliant thing. It's a brilliant thing that finally we have somewhere where we can go and say, this is where you come and learn the entire history of Kenya. We have been having them all in the museums, the national museums, the national archives, and all these places. But if they can consolidate all that, and their grounds, people can come in. If somebody has come to visit this country and they want to know, so where can I go? One of the first places you tell them to go to is Uhuru Gardens. Because you will learn about the history of Kenya. You will learn about the past leadership of the country. There'll be a presidential library with all the presidential speeches from Jomo Kenyatta to Uhuru Kenyatta to future presidents.
Indeed.
All their speeches will be there. I mean, that is
something fantastic. In fact, many Kenyans don't even know that the independence celebration was actually held there.
Yep.
Right there. That's where it was held.
It's a good spot to be, I'll say.
Yes. It was a beautiful one. So,
I'm actually spoiled for choice this morning.
Okay.
There are so many things that one wishes to talk about, but the one which caught my attention and one which I feel I must talk about is there is a collective history of typos that keep visiting us every once in a while from the Treasury. Okay? The latest one is that there was a typing error that saw 8.6 billion entry for a non-existent loan.
Okay.
Let me read it. A typing error by the National Treasury has inflated the size of bilateral debt after 8.6 billion was included as part of repayment for a non-existent loan to the United Kingdom. Non-existent because direct loans from the UK no longer exist. We paid everything. What we may have are loans that are passed on to lending agencies like DFID for onward lending to Kenya. Okay. However, the entry came despite Kenya having cleared direct loans owed by its former colonial master, the United Kingdom. In June 2020, after wiring 35.3 million shillings to London, and has not tapped any new debt from Britain, meaning that that's 35
we cleared
plus interest. Finished. Okay. Officials say it was a typing error.
So where was it entered? This 8.5 billion?
Yes.
Entered
as we were repaying debts, there's a system where entries for onward forwarding are entered. Yes. So now this one was entered as payment to the UK.
But was a payment made?
Officials say it was a typing error. Okay. Now, this rekindled the infamous typing error that could have an extra 9.2 billion to a supplementary budget presented to Parliament in 2009 by Uhuru Kenyatta when he served as finance minister. Okay. It is a wrong classification of debt service on the table. It is supposed to be Eurobond payment, not UK debt. That is understandable.
Okay.
That is understandable.
So it was put in the wrong column.
In the wrong column. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is what a source at the Treasury who did not want to be mentioned was said. Now,
Was it really an error?
Is it really ever an error? Is it really ever an error? Because if you are talking about debt repayment, you know what it means? You're talking about a schedule.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And you talk about individuals who do this. This is what they do for a living. They are tuned to it. They know. This one goes here. This one goes here. This one goes here. So on this particular day, what happened?
Yeah, why would it be?
One
why would
went-
it be so different?
one
on
went
that
here.
day?
Did they bring somebody from another ministry to come and do that work?
Yes.
Somebody who doesn't normally do it is the one then who.
Or
was
they brought
responsible
somebody
that
from
day.
some other parastatal who that deals with semi-arid and what have you. I mean, what did they do? It's unfortunate that this could actually be a genuine error. It could be other errors have been made in the past, but were not made public. But unfortunately, it is Kenya.
And you
You
can't
have
just
to
see it like, you know,
No.
you've got to ask
You
yourself.
have to think or assume that there's somebody who did something deliberately and then hopes that it will be swept under the carpet and nobody really figure it out until later.
And
you can't
you-
throw away that
No.
possibility.
And you get the impression certain things have been done in that manner, not necessarily with this, in that
several
manner.
times before.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this one just happened to have been picked up.
Picked up on. You have to assume, unfortunately, but you have to. You can't throw it out as a possibility.
No, you can't. Why I'm saying I was spoiled for choice, you see, what this reminded me of was a time when an article appeared in the same business daily, and it was an interesting article around the same year when these things were happening. It was in 2019, and there is an organization that is called the National Bureau of Economic Research, okay, and it had revealed that in that year, I'm not talking about now. I'm tying it to this particular article, that super rich Kenyans had over 5 trillion shillings out of the country. So they were asked to bring in back money. So they started bringing back money. And they brought in something to the tune of 1.5 trillion. But this report now, KRA could not trace 800 billion wired from offshore banks.
What do you mean could not trace?
They couldn't, 800 billion, couldn't trace. So I asked.
Trace means what?
Find. They don't know where it went.
Yes.
Or they couldn't
Why is
see. They
KRA
couldn't see
tracing?
where it went.
So, wait.
Yes.
When the high net worth individuals were asked to bring the money back home, were they to wire it through KRA? Were they to declare to KRA? Was it to come? Were they given a moratorium? Bring
They were
it,
given
you shall
an
not
amnesty
pay.
on tax.
Okay.
Okay.
So bring, you shall not pay.
Yes. Now, the money was repatriated. If it's repatriated, it goes through the central bank.
Right.
I mean, it's not something that lands in a parachute in your garden and then you take it to the central bank. It goes to the central bank. But somehow, after it landed, it was supposed to go to specific destinations, isn't it?
Yeah, people's accounts.
Yep.
Uh,
And somehow, KRA
so 800 billion.
couldn't trace.
So it's possible then, I think I can see what's happening here. So you've been given an amnesty on payment of tax.
You're told you will
That
not.
means that you shall now claim and say, I have X amount of money, but X I brought back because, you'd given me an amnesty, so I'm not paying tax. So there's some 800 billion shillings that somebody claimed that they had brought back, and there's no proof of how they brought it back. And so KRA is just caught between, I can't see how this money came into the country, so you ought to be paying tax for this
on
money.
it. Yeah.
You know, that particular amnesty was really very broad. Apart from just being told that you didn't need to pay tax, no one wanted to know where the money came from.
Yeah, we don't want to understand
Don't
the
ask,
source.
don't tell.
No,
Yeah.
we're not going to. No, we
Just bring the money.
bring
We
the
need
money.
the
and
money.
we're all right.
We're not going to ask you what you did, how you did, and what have you.
So why is KRA then asking questions?
See, there's a reason why I'm saying this and why I brought this up. You read such an article and you have to ask yourself the simple question, what on earth am I reading here? Okay. If government agencies that are supposed to understand the details of these things, why are they presenting it to us as a problem that they have? Why? So what are we supposed to do with that information?
What are you supposed to do with the information that KRA is asking questions?
I mean, what? Okay, I've read it. Okay, so then...
Okay, sour bus.
We need another amnesty like that. We need money in this country. Yeah, 25 minutes to 7, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a quick break. How are the roads looking like? We shall find out shortly.
24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Bro, na si watu wamejenga manyumba hii area. Kwanza angalia ile. Are you seeing that roof? That color? Sio ni nyumba mpya?
That's not a new house, bro. That's a Covermax roof.
Covermax?
Covermax. It's more than just a roof. It's color that lasts. Ukiweka, umeweka.
So whose new house is that anyway? Really nice.
Niangu.
How's that possible?
Good choice from me. Covermax didn't let me down. It's good to have a long-lasting roof when you have a family, you know?
Covermax roofing sheets with advanced color coating technology. A quality product from Mabati Rolling Mills.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
It's the festive season, and as always, Naivas has the season all set for us. This year, Naivas Christmas Kiroko is here, and we have something special in store for everyone. This 8th to the 14th of December, choose from thousands of products and enjoy massive Jamboree Week offers across all Naivas outlets to enjoy with Naivas Christmas Kiroko. This Jamboree Week, you are sorted. Join me on the SpiceFM drive from 3 p.m. to win yourself a Naivas shopping voucher worth 3,000 shillings. Naivas Christmas Kiroko. Shinda kokote, sherekea kikwetu. Naivas saves you money.
Not much of it this morning. Most of the roads free and clear. For some reason, still a bit of a hold up right there on Landys Road as you're heading out into the city. It's not too crazy though, so nothing to really panic about right now. You can get where you're going in very short periods of time today. Everybody's still taking it easy before you get back into the rat race of tomorrow. But it looks pretty good all across the city, and hopefully we can keep it that way. Let's do that, shall we? Don't forget, you can talk to us on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. You can chat as well on text on 40127.
So you know we're in full holiday time. We're in full holiday season, right?
Yep.
After Jamboree Day, that's it. So this is the time to gift somebody something, and the best gift to give this festive season is video on demand at its best. Imagine the ability to access back-to-back seasons of series and movies and documentaries and sports activity wherever you are on Showmax. 5 different devices that you can log on to, and you can watch on 2 different devices at the same time.
I'm just happy I don't have to look for entertainment.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't have to. Okay, so now what shall I do today? No.
300 shillings and you have access to all this entertainment. All of it. Imagine.
300 bob.
Yep. Wherever you are, this is the way to go. www.showmax.com. Just log in and you'll find out more.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right,
94.4 Spice FM.
So Kenya is going to get a 15% cut in power bills this month. That's good news.
No, it's not. Okay, go on.
Fa la 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 la. Right? The head of state says this in keeping with a promise his government made to Kenyans. The state had initially proposed to cut electricity costs by 33% by the end of the year. So Kenyans have a reason to smile about after President Uhuru Kenyatta announced a 15% reduction in the cost of electricity starting this month. This is, however, less than the 33% he promised in September. Okay, so I'm going to meet you halfway, literally. It might also not be a Merry Christmas for Kenya Power, who will have the arduous task of reducing the number of illegal electricity connections and sealing most of the leakages to their network. In his last Jamboree speech at Uhuru Gardens, Nairobi, yesterday, the head of state said the reduction in power bills was in keeping with the promise his government made to Kenyans to cut the cost of electricity by 30% by the end of the year, even as he instituted radical changes at the power distributor. In honor of this pledge to the nation, and I quote, and in response to the concerns over the high cost of electricity raised by both individual consumers and enterprises, I am pleased to announce to the nation that the reduction of the cost of electricity will be implemented in 2 tranches of 15% each. So the 30% is going to be delivered. We're just going to start with 15, all right? With the new plan, the cost of power will go down by 15% from 24 shillings per kilowatt to 20.4 by the end of this month, December. It's expected to decline even further by another 15% to 16 shillings per unit by the end of March next year, when the second phase of the reduction will be implemented. This means that for 1,000 shillings, which would earn you an average of 41 units in November, consumers will be able to get the same units at 850 shillings. Alternatively, 1,000 shillings will now buy you 50 units or 50 kilowatts. The first tranche of a reduction will be achieved through the reduced system and commercial losses, with consumers expected to absorb less of these losses. Okay, so why do you say this is not a good thing, Eric?
Because he promised 33%.
It's coming.
It's not coming.
It's
The
coming.
president
So
said
we we were gonna
33%
do
by
30%,
December.
right?
It's not coming.
Yes, so
Received a task force report, and the task force said 33% is possible by December. He told the same task force, now go and implement this report. Now you're telling me that the task force has gone back to the president and said, Mzee,
we can only do 15 for now.
we can only do 15. A number of things that the task force was doing, and in their report, they said, you know what? Kenya Power is paying so much money to independent power producers, especially the thermal generators. Those ones need to be cut. So they were told, go and do it.
Contract.
Now they've come back. We are still negotiating. The president, if you look at what he said yesterday, he actually made a plea to the IPPs, and he said, IPPs, please play ball. Okay? That means all this grandstanding that was being done earlier was all hot air. They were not going to be able to realize that without actually having a conversation with the IPPs. Where is the greatest amount of money going from Kenya Power? Is it going to IPPs or is it going elsewhere? I think they've realized, wait a minute, it's not necessarily the IPPs. Because if it was just the IPPs, then we would be saying that the president has promised at least 60% of what he had promised to be effected immediately, and then the remaining 40% is what is left with the negotiations with the IPPs. These are all stories.
And if you want to see the pointers even more clearly, look at what's in the news, not on the first page, not on the front page, not the fourth page, but it's clearly. Look at what's happened to the management at Kenya Power. Look at the dictates that you hear and whispers about Kenya Power employees being asked to present their phones, M-Pesa statements, their spouses. The problem is not just with the IPPs,
yes.
Right? And the people who own those companies, powerful as they may be, have not indicated that they are not willing to talk.
Right.
Yep.
No. What they're against is unilateral decisions being made by Senate committees and other individuals and say this is what we're going to do. And saying, but folks, we have a contract. The way these things work is when there's something that you think is an issue, you come as you came when we had this thing.
We negotiate.
We negotiate and we chat.
Yep.
Yes.
Hello.
We restructure. We do something.
Yep.
So are we saying essentially that this is a gift that's quote unquote being given to you, but then it's being taken away from you at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's happening. So I present it to you and then you're all happy or whatever. And then from the other side, I'm actually taking it away.
Remember when we hosted, what's the gentleman called? The one from
Dereva.
In Dereva, Mr. Dereva, who understands billing. What did he tell us? He told us the last time we were going into an election and there was a promise like this made, it was extended, and then soon after, tariffs went up. Now, we have not seen a review. By law, we should be seeing a review of power tariffs every 3 years. We haven't seen that happen.
So
we are 2 years behind. We haven't seen a review of tariffs. There's no talk here, even from the president, of can you review the tariffs? It is you look at your operational costs, cut down on your losses. That's what Kenya Power has been told. What are these losses? You buy power from KenGen, from the IPPs, you put it in your archaic lines. Those lines lead to losses. There's losses because of the infrastructure, and then there's losses because of people stealing your power.
Right.
So go and look for those loopholes and seal those loopholes and extend that to the consumer. That is one way. Okay, you can do that. But then?
You see, it is more dramatic and more politically savvy to blame these foreign IPPs who are siphoning our money through exorbitant and extortionist contracts.
Meanwhile,
our eyes were wide open when we got into those contracts, for heaven's sake, and we know why we got into those contracts in the first place.
Yep.
Okay? So, when you politicize an issue, or when you make it an issue of trying to present a pleasant, either through reporting, because culprits we are awash with culprits here. A reporting issue. Somebody reports it with a slant.
Yes.
Okay? The president talks about it given what he has been told without knowledge.
Yes.
And yet, there is a lot more. You see, what we deal with, because we wonder in that room when they're having that conversation, is what is written.
Right.
Yes.
And what you find over time is that what is written often leaves out a great deal of what actually transpired.
Yes. And unfortunately, you only get to, even if you do get to hear it, you'll only hear in little bits and pieces. And it is much later after the fact.
You cannot just point at the IPPs as the only source of our issues. They are not. It's just a simple truth.
Yeah.
They are not.
Yep.
No.
And even now with this directive, why I'm saying it's nothing. With this directive, it's not really clear what KPLC, Kenya Power, are going to do to give you that reduction in bills. It's not really clear. They could do it this month,
to do it?
but the next month they will not be able to sustain. It's not clear what exactly are they going to do to pass on that.
Yes.
You know what I sometimes wonder? The task force clearly has an understanding of what has gone on. They know. But are they free to actually tell us, folks,
this is what we discussed?
This is actually what we have figured out, we have seen, and this is really what we're dealing with.
Yes.
Because that's the impression I get. They know. But there's a limit to what they can actually say.
It's 13 minutes to 7. Let's take another short break, and then we'll be back looking at more headlines shortly.
Wish hotline. Your wish is our command.
Hello, neza make a wish?
Unaweza. What do you want to wish for?
I wish ningeondoa stress ya storage, packaging na shipping to my customers so I can focus more on growing my online business bila hizo hassles.
Try Sendy.
Sendy?
Yes, Sendy. You can download the fulfillment app and begin fulfilling with Sendy today.
Always wishing for a solution to manage your operations? Sendy Fulfillment is here to bring your wishes to life. We pick, store, pack, and ship your orders to your customers bila stress. Download the Sendy Fulfillment app today. Do more with Sendy.
What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more. Starting Thursday, 18th November on the Standard Digital YouTube and Facebook page. Hosted by Eric Latiff.
Get ready to start your engine. Turn up the volume and set the destination for the Two Rivers Mall for cars and music happening on the 18th and 19th of December. Come dance and drive with Digger Motors and SpiceFM with fun interactive activities, including a showcase of the latest cars, motoring technology from top dealers, car service, mobile clinics, product stands, sim racing, GP karting, and music, courtesy of the Throwback Kings, DJs Nijo and Pinye.
Day alongside Spice FM's very own DJ Absolute. All this and more only at Cars and Music at the Two Rivers Mall. Don't get left behind.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, so let's continue with the conversations. The back page of The Nation this morning: private primary schools eye junior high business. Private primary schools have started building extra classrooms to cash in on the opportunity to expand their businesses by offering the junior secondary level of the competency-based curriculum. The primary schools stand to lose 2 classes once CBC phases out classes 7 and 8 on full implementation because the primary cycle ends at grade 6. But the owners are seeking to make up for that lost business by setting up junior secondary schools. Many primary schools do not currently have secondary schools. A Ministry of Education task force has, however, encouraged primary schools to set up junior secondaries as part of the ongoing CBC changes, arguing it will enhance access, relevance, transition, equity and quality for effective curriculum reforms implementation. The task force was chaired by Professor Fatma Shege, who is the PS for Curriculum Reforms Implementation. This new section will increase the number of places for learners in secondary schools, where there are 10,359 public secondary schools. Private ones are only 1,600. So, you have a private primary school. You had up to standard 8. Now primary ends at grade 6. You have 2 extra classes.
Yep.
So they have seen this is an opportunity. Why don't we just convert those 2 classes into junior high? The question, though, is it really clear? So after grade 6, do you transition to junior high and you stay in the same institution for the 4 years? Junior, senior high? Or if you, let's say, went to private primary school or primary school and continued into junior high in that primary school, what happens when you're done? Do you now need to apply to go into a different senior high?
If that school is only offering until a certain level.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to, because what are you going to do? You're not going to remain.
So there's going to be another intake at
now that senior high level, senior secondary level, there would be another intake. Because there are many schools right now operating just like that. They currently only go until standard 8.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So even when you finished that, you would have to go.
You went into secondary school.
Exactly. You would have to go to another secondary school, right? So now in this case, if you're operating until standard 8, what's essentially happening is that you operate until grade 6, and then standard 7, 8 is your junior high. Just take it like that, right?
Okay.
So you could essentially finish until junior high in that institution, and then you would have to find another one for senior secondary.
Now, this is where the complication comes in. You see, presently, up to standard 8, there is KCPE.
Yes.
And after KCPE, there is the placement into secondary, which is very clear. Now, is there going to be a placement at the end of junior high? Remember, into senior high, that's why you start now narrowing down into either arts or sciences.
Yeah. They're going to have what they call an assessment. So now with this new system, the way it'll be graded is that after grade 6, there is this big test, right? To just basically see where you are before you go into junior. And then there will be a yearly assessment. At the end of the first year of junior high, there will be that one big assessment. There will be then another one at the end of junior secondary. And then there will be one. So you not have that one big exam like your KCSE, neither will you have the big exam like your KCPE, but there will be a yearly test that you have, essentially, which would serve as your placement. Because remember now what is happening is that you're being placed according to your either interest, ability, right where you are.
Into senior.
So it allows them to see where you are, but it'll be on a yearly basis as opposed to waiting until the 4 years are over.
But the point still remains that at grade 6, there's an assessment that places you into secondary school, right?
But secondary school now is, even though there's a demarcation between junior and secondary, it's still being viewed as a block of secondary.
All these things are all good and well. The understanding that I think parents need to, beyond just understanding junior, not so junior, perhaps in the middle, is the curriculum and what it's purposed to do at every level.
Yes.
Because all these stages are supposed to be learning stages. So what is it that you're learning and transitioning into? And if it's new and it's being introduced, what is it and what does it purpose to do? What is it that is seeking to change that previously wasn't there? And what direction is it seeking to actually focus on that will guarantee something better in terms of a learning experience and a learning outcome for the pupil? Yes. Because if you just keep talking about the formatting and the what have you, you can confuse people.
Completely get lost.
Yes. So, okay, junior, senior, okay.
Where am I supposed to be going? What am I
So
supposed
now
to
what happens after this?
I think there
And
need-
especially if you now say that primary then also hosts secondary.
Yeah.
That adds on to the confusion.
It does throw a spanner in the works. I think what needs to happen, which we often talk about, is there needs to be clear communication. Because from parents to teachers to practitioners of the curriculum themselves, it is clear that nobody is really clear about how this is supposed to be. On paper, there's a table, right? But in practice, remember that it's very, very different from what people have been doing for the last 20 years. So it needs to be very clear. Because across institution, like you say, there are some who go from pre-prime, or they go from kindergarten all the way to
high
Form
school.
4.
Yep,
There
the
are
same
those who's
institution.
in
Well,
the same institution.
there's of course there's a demarcation.
There's a demarcation,
But you know.
but the school houses all of that. And then there are those who just house primary. There are those who just house until,
But actually, there are
pre-primary.
very few private schools that have primary and secondary,
Very few. Most are just primary.
or secondary.
Yeah, or just secondary. Very, very few.
You know, I remember the confusion when the 844 system was introduced. I was a teacher then. And I realized that had we stopped talking about the 844 system and focus our discussion on the content and what it is that we're hoping to achieve, the 844 might have sailed a little smoother and we would have ironed out and eased out the rough edges much, much earlier.
Yeah.
But the focus was on the system, then the outcome,
Yeah.
without actually focusing on what we ought to. Because if you look at the curriculum was a good curriculum. The problem was, how do you implement this particular curriculum with the resources that we have effectively?
Yes.
Because there were very many aspects of the 844 that required practical appliances. And so now you want to teach agriculture in a city school that is brick and mortar throughout.
It's a 3-acre piece of land.
All of it filled to capacity with buildings. Yet you actually can. You can. But we didn't focus our thinking on this because our thinking of agriculture was you need space, land.
Yes.
I think there was no focus also because there was never a thought that you would have a change in curriculum. You see, it was as though this was cast in stone and this is what we're going to do for the next however long foreseeable future.
I think people just stopped focusing on it because I think you can initially, though, even asking parents to help build these things, workshops, you'll need workshops. You need a home science room, you need an art room, you need an whatever workshop and this and the other, and you need those facilities for agriculture. But then it became just too much and there was no sufficient investment, especially coming from government. Because without money coming from the government, it dies.
You know what the government did? I remember when J.J. Kamotho was Minister for Education. One of the things that they did, they simply absorbed very many private schools, Harambee schools. They became government schools. Yes, what you do is you make it an assisted school, meaning we provide you the teachers.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't have to pay. The building is yours, but we pay for the teachers. Then after a while, the government takes it over completely. So it becomes a government school. The community is happy because it's a fully supported school, which they are now. So if you come from an area where people understood that Harambee spirit and they built many schools, they ended up with very many schools. Now, those who were waiting for Serikali Kuu to do what Serikali Kuu doesn't often do very well.
Yeah.
Okay? I think
there were also areas that just needed affirmative action, just needed to be supported.
From the get-go.
Yeah.
Yes. Meaning from the very beginning. Yeah.
Well, keep it right here. We'll be talking about more of what's happening in the country and in the world in the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Gabriel Ekirapa Cyrus from Angurai, Teso North, Ome Village, Osia is tuned in. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. You will spend less to power your house this Christmas. This is after President Uhuru Kenyatta in his Jamboree Day speech announced a 15% cut to electricity cost this month as part of the government's goal of bringing down energy cost by Christmas. During the Mashujaa Day celebrations, President Kenyatta announced his government's goal to cut electricity prices by at least 33% before the end of the year on the back of various reforms.
I am pleased to note that the pathway to reduce the cost of electricity by over 30% is on course. In honor of this pledge to the nation and in response to the concerns of the high cost of electricity raised both by individual customers and enterprises, I am pleased to announce to the nation that the reduction of the cost of electricity will be implemented in 2 tranches of 15% each, with the first 15% achieved through initial actions focusing on system and commercial losses, and this will be reflected in people's bills in December of this year. A further 15% reduction will happen in the first quarter of 2022.
Now, Deputy President William Ruto has reiterated his calls for equal opportunity as the country prepares for the August 2022 presidential election. Ruto, who was recently criticized certain state actors for allegedly working to undermine in political ambitions, said all public institutions must exercise fairness as they discharge their constitutional mandate.
As we focus into that future, our unity, ensuring that the institutions that we build will guarantee equal opportunity for all our citizens, and that patronage and who you know will not determine how you succeed in our country. We are determined as we focus into the future to ensure that all the institutions are built to create an equal society where every citizen can proudly sing our national anthem.
The Deputy President has not hidden his frustrations, for instance, over the decision by Chief Justice Martha Koome and some government officials to sit in the recently assembled Elections Preparedness Committee. He has even written a letter to that effect expressing reservations. Now, just days after the death of Chief of Staff in the office of Deputy President William Ruto, Ambassador Ken Osinde, Many questions continue to be raised following his death. The latest on Osinde's death is Nyamira Senator Okongo Omogeni, who is suspicious of the events surrounding the death of the top government official. Speaking in West Mugirango, Omogeni called on government pathologists to perform an autopsy on Ambassador Osinde's body to determine the cause of death. However, Osinde's family has already dismissed allegations of political interference on his death. Ambassador Osinde, who was Chief of Staff in the office of Deputy President William Ruto, passed away Friday last week after a short illness. Now, 201 people tested positive for COVID-19 from a sample size of 4,011. The positivity rate is now at 5%, with total confirmed positive cases rising to 256,335 and cumulative tests so far conducted at 2,889,613. From the cases, 157 are Kenyans, while 44 are foreigners. 118 are males and 83 are females, while the youngest is an 8-month-old child and the oldest is 78 years. The ministry also said 4 patients recovered from the disease, all of them from the home-based isolation and care program. Total recoveries now stand at 248,515. However, 2 patients succumbed to the disease, pushing the cumulative fatalities to 5,348. Now, at least 3 people have died and at least 6 others are missing after several buildings in the southern Italian town of Ravenusa collapsed, according to Civil Protection Department in Sicily. 2 people have been rescued. Ravenusa Mayor Camillo D'Angelo said that no children are among the missing. Italian authorities said the building collapsed following an explosion caused by a large gas leak, which destroyed 3 houses and damaged another. The possible causes of the pipe rupture could be bad weather, shifting soil, or the lift. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, so are we seeing anything changing a few minutes after 7 o'clock? And the answer is no. A little bit here and there. There are folks going in opposite directions from Mombasa Road and coming in from the Thika Superhighway. Jogo Road has a little bit of a traffic situation, but there's nothing crazy this morning. To be expected, folks are taking it easy today. Hopefully, we remain that way for most of today, and we shouldn't have any issues on the roads at all. A little bit of action in the CBD, but doesn't get more painful than that. All right, shall we keep looking at it and see how it goes? SpiceFM KE on Twitter is where you can talk to us, or text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Okay,
the
7 minutes after 7. How are you
day.
doing? A very good morning to you. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, and we are thankful that you are tuned in this morning. Happy post-Jamboree Day. It's a public holiday in Kenya, and CT Muga has the day's proverb.
Yes. Usifiatue mshale kwa giza. That is now the paraphrase. Kwa giza, usifiatue mshale.
Mshale. Yes. Kwa giza, usifiatue
mshale.
Mshale.
Do not shoot an arrow in the dark.
Don't.
Or don't release an arrow in the dark. Yes.
Okay. Something that is a bit sad that happened 2 weeks ago and is still ongoing. And this is with regards to, remember the collapsed mine?
Yes.
Yes.
So local miners and state officials have lost communication with 25-year-old Tom Okoh, who was trapped nearly 2 weeks ago in a Bimbo gold mine. Okoh and 7 others were trapped inside the mine in Siaya County on the 2nd of December after the walls of the shafts they were digging in collapsed. 2 other miners they were with on that day were able to run out unhurt. Enos Ongonga's body, however, was retrieved on the 4th of December, 2 days later. Yesterday, the Bondo Sub-County Deputy County Commissioner Richard Karani said they had no information on Okoh. After the shaft caved in again, we lost communication between him and his colleagues who were using manual processes to try and get to him. Karani said an excavator was removing soil from the site, after which another shaft would be made. Local rescuers will then continue with the search. We are trying our best. The excavator has been on site all through. The family of Okoh on Saturday appealed to the state to send professionals to help rescue their son after raising concerns that the excavator the county government had provided had run out of fuel a number of times, slowing down the rescue. They're saying, we appreciate the help from all over. Karani noted that local rescuers are on standby to support the excavation process, but could not give the exact timelines. So this is one of those cases that you look at and you ask yourself, have we done the best, really, to rescue these people? So the government, through the local administration at the level of DO, Deputy County Commissioner, have been on site. Then there is a machinery that has been sent from the county headquarters to come in here. But do we have experts or people who are at least more experienced who could have tried to rescue these people faster, sooner? Is this one of those cases where we say, okay, so in other cases we see the military being deployed? And military, it's just a couple of officers who come in and they are good at digging, they're good. They go in there and they're looking for somebody. In this particular case, why are we not hearing that? Why are we not hearing NYS and military have been deployed to go and help rescue these miners?
Or even methods for, because you want to think about where you see other kind of, not even high profile, but this is rescue.
Yeah.
Even methods for rescue. What are the methods for rescue that are being used? Is it your manual kind of put things together rescue, or are we looking at ways in which you will then be able to rescue people, bring them out, and then maintain the area, for example, without it being destroyed completely? It's important to look at it because one thing you are guaranteed is that such a thing would happen again in the future. So how are you then taking care of it? It would appear that it took so much time, because look at what happened with the ferry disaster. This is not just the only one.
Yep.
It took so much time even when the bodies were retrieved, it had to have other specialized divers and crew come in. Right? So what do you have in terms of capacity that can actually help in situations like this? Or is it kind of like, your run-of-the-mill, we'll try what we can, pass a rope in here, send somebody of smaller...
it's only 8 people. So what?
We'll figure it out. But in terms of the methods for such things, are we even paying attention to that? Or we'll say, okay, well, if it happens, we'll figure it out as we go along. Or should there be things in place to make sure that regardless of what happens, you will then be able to rescue people, unfortunately, whether they are dead or alive, and then also maintain the integrity of the area? Can you do that? Can you be assured of that?
What I find fascinating is how it is we have on record someone in the county government talk about running out of fuel. How on earth do you begin and bring a discussion where you are seeking to save lives and you run out of fuel?
Yeah.
You run out of fuel in the county, or that particular equipment ran out of fuel. How did it run out of fuel? You did not know what you're going into.
Yeah.
And you have no idea the length of time that a certain amount of fuel takes with this particular equipment. Now, that to me points to the heart of the problem. All these people we are talking about, you start where you will and end where you might. Minimum effort, and then followed by a plethora of explanations.
It's all stories, left, right, and center.
Where is the real effort being made here? Tell me.
Because it's an emergency. It's about saving lives.
It is a serious emergency.
These people are 35 meters below ground.
That is a long way down.
They don't have water. They don't have food.
And when it collapses, they don't have oxygen.
And oxygen is also running out. And we're talking about, so yes, the DO has been there for a long time. But let's even look at the chronology. Mine collapses on December 2nd at 3 p.m. It's not until 2 days later that these 2 bulldozers arrive. 2 days. Okay? 2 days later. And only 2 people had run out of the mine and 1 body had been retrieved. And they knew how many people were inside. 10 people were in. So you can account for 3. You cannot account for 7. And it takes you 48 hours to send in 2 bulldozers. Even after those two bulldozers go, you don't actually even have anything else. There's no other assistance you're giving. You don't have any expert. You don't have anybody. People are still using shovels and all to dig and try and reach these people.
This is the thing. Because
6 days later, you rescue 3 people. And you know there are more who are still trapped.
This is the thing, and it seems like it's a trial and error kind of situation, because you don't even know if what you're using is going to bring them out. You don't know how long it's going to take. You cannot give an estimate. You cannot do any of that. You cannot even give people a plan as to this is what we're going to do. Because just reading, just looking back at what people do in situations like this is that very quickly, even before they go in, they tell you, this is the assessment of the area. This is where it's suspected that there's still life. This is what we've been able to check through and see. So then going forward, this is our plan. We're going to go in, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. In this matter of time, we'll be able to bring it. That is our hope. But it just seems as though, 2 days later, we'll bring in a truck. We'll see if we can go in and, get people out. Many more days. It's kind of like trial and error. And you can't do that in a disaster, because it becomes more of a disaster even as you're sitting looking at it.
On the 19th of October this year, in Northern Cape, Namakwa Land, South Africa, a diamond mine, a shaft collapsed. 12 miners were trapped. Okay. Now, the first thing they did, before doing anything, they assessed the situation, People came, they assessed, people who are experts. They assessed the situation and determined what needed to be done as soon as they arrived. And they said that one of the difficulties they were encountering was they didn't know exactly where the miners were trapped. And if you just rush into it by digging, you might actually end up harming them rather than actually rescuing them. So once they had a handle of where the shaft had collapsed, where it was, where the people were working, then they set about the process of now trying to get them out and using appropriate equipment. Have you read anywhere where such a discussion even took place?
It's just the locals.
It's the locals who started digging with
It's the
shovels
people
and
who've
whatever
been-
else they could find.
People who've been mining in other areas
Came
who
to
were
help.
not in this particular one are the ones who came.
Now you tell me.
Before they now, others now.
Then 2 days later, a bulldozer.
Yeah.
What do bulldozers do?
They bulldoze.
Precisely. Precisely.
That's
They
what I'm
just
saying.
dig.
Maintaining the integrity of the mine itself, whereby it could actually cause more harm than good. Because the truth is, there was no assessment that was done. You do not know where these people are. You do not know if they're huddled together. You don't know if they're spread apart underground. You don't know. So you come in and then you want to just come in literally like a bull. And then
And you know also, when you have something that is unregulated, you see, this is a mine, a diamond mine is regulated. So you have an idea of who is working where and how many people are working. You know,
Yeah.
because you are employed, so you are destined to work in this place. So when such a thing happens, you have a fairly clear
And
idea.
people clocked in, so it's known.
Yes, and who is working and where they're working. You have an idea.
Yeah.
And also, there's a mapping out of that place. Even these shafts, there are clear indications of where these shafts are. In this case, do we have any such? Do we have?
There's no regulation at all. I mean, this is just like we read in the other story a couple of days ago. It's just a free-for-all area.
Come
People
mine.
go and they think, okay, I think we can get gold here. Let's
Yeah.
go and try. They start digging, they go. 30, 40 meters down, they come up, they have their
Say
gold,
this,
they
we
keep
found
selling.
or we have
we
not found,
don't
move on.
move to the next. Okay? So in this particular case, I also want to shift blame a little bit to our media. Look at how much focus and attention in the news we gave the Likoni incident.
yes.
That unfortunate lady and her daughter.
Yes.
But there was round-the-clock coverage, which increased the pressure on the authorities to do something.
It did.
In this particular case,
Mention.
it's just a page 8,
Every now and
page
then.
9.
Oh, by
it's
the
a
way,
good
the
thing.
miners are still underground.
They're down. They're coming out. Nothing.
Did you look at the attention we gave the bus incident? It was good attention.
Yes.
It focused it. So even when they had funeral arrangements, it became an issue.
big thing.
For all the people there. It was an issue. People stopped what they're doing to attend to it.
Yes.
So we are arguing that some lives are more important than others. We are arguing that some things require more attention than others. We are what are we saying? But it points to the same thing we're saying, that we have a situation that has nothing to do with mines and rivers and bridges. It has to do with the government attitude towards its people.
Yes. It's an attitude issue. It is an attitude issue. The governor of Siaya, has the governor of Siaya been here? Have we heard
of him
anything
being
like this? Have we heard any beyond sending the 2 bulldozers which are running out of fuel? What else is the county government doing?
Do you know, to the credit of the political leaders in Ukambani, they all seem to have stopped exactly what they're doing and went.
Yes.
To their credit. And they have followed up. They made it an issue. And they were taking a hands-on approach to it.
Right.
This one?
Not so much.
Not much. Nothing.
The leadership of Siaya, I haven't heard anything from the senator of Siaya.
And you know, this is very interesting, guys, because this incident happened at the same time that there was a commissioning of this gold mining project in Siaya. The same time. We heard the news of this mine collapse a day after we read in this room that it was commissioned in Siaya. So you realize that this is a revenue stream for the county. This is a good thing for the county. It's also a great thing in terms of uplifting livelihoods for people who are working. And then something like this happens, and then it's like, oh, okay. A mine collapsed.
Okay. How many people?
Oh, okay.
12. Okay. So send bulldozers.
There's a disconnect here. And the way in which you care for your people then gives a clear indication of really where your attention is. It really is very, very clear about that. And I do agree. I think we can be faulted in terms of the attention that we gave to this. Because what is going to happen, whereby this resource is very clearly available in the area, what is going to happen with people? Well, some would say it doesn't really matter. They would think that the situation would be different with them. But if something would, or if there's a potential danger for anybody who would mine in the future, how ready do you think they would be to go into that, knowing that if something were to happen, this would be the attitude when it comes to helping?
Why do you keep reminding your people that they're on their own?
Imagine.
Yeah, you basically told them, all right, so anybody wants to go in the future, well, you'll have to deal with it by yourself. Really.
It's
disaster management is not a joke. Disaster management and carrying it out properly is something that must be given the utmost importance, because it could potentially save. We've had many disasters that you have not had the loss of life because of the way in which the matter was handled, because of the way in which the rescue was handled. It's like insurance. You need to be ready, because in the event that something like that could happen, you need to be ready to handle it properly. You can't say, well, are we going to put aside all these resources and all this manpower in case something happens? What if it doesn't? Well, what if you don't get sick? What if you don't get hit by a bus? Right. You can't. That's what insurance is that you are insured in the event that something like this should happen.
We focus very much on academic qualifications for would-be leaders at whatever levels. And yes, a certain level of literacy, understanding, and academic prowess is necessary, but we miss out on the larger picture. And I'm going to say what I mean here. Because I'm thinking of this attitude that pervades things and everything that we see. And I'm asking, its deliberateness, is it out of just sheer and absolute ignorance? Is it because the competing interests are so stark divide where self-interest always trumps any public interest?
Yeah.
Or should we demand that before somebody even aspires and pens their name down for new leadership, forget the university qualification and diploma, forget that. You must show evidence of having been trained in certain things that have to do with not just managing human beings, but understanding how to. Because somebody has a PhD. Okay, you've got a PhD. Does that tell us that you know how to manage things? No, it doesn't. Does it show us? How do we understand that this is somebody who understands good governance? Something basic. Let's start with something that people understand has been talked about. Yes, good governance. If somebody doesn't understand it and you're putting this person in a position of leadership, what do you think you're going to see? Bad governance.
Bad governance, very clearly so.
Yep. And I think it starts from just a basic thing, empathy.
Yes, surely.
Because there's some people who just don't have empathy. I mean, you are born created without that sense.
Yes.
And those who have empathy, then you can clearly see, even in the community, you can see somebody who is empathetic, who understands other people's plight and sees, we need to do something. They'll mobilize people. They're good mobilizers. They are good. They're good at following through.
They're good at doing things that are for the public good. You can see.
You can
they're
see
concerned.
That.
Now, why do you think Barack Obama appealed so much? That man communicated that empathy.
Yeah.
That, you know something? It's far more important for me to do things that are going to help people. That's why I want. And people said, this guy actually wants to do this.
Right.
Let's give him a chance.
Let's rally around him.
Yes, let's give him an opportunity to actually do what he said he's going to do. But the empty rhetoric that we hear continuously, and these are clearly people who are bankrupt, completely empty and devoid of any understanding of any basics of good governance. If they studied it, it was to pass an exam, they passed the exam, and then they archived it, moved along. Okay? How is it that we keep talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again? Basics. These counties have resources. My friend, in the times these fellows have been governors, you are talking about an excess of 100 billion that has gone through. 100 billion. That is not pocket change. And is there anything in these counties that you're going to look at and say, I can
actually see where the money is.
Where this is.
I can see 2 billion there. I can't. Is there? And yet, there are plans in agriculture, there are plans in commerce, there are plans in education, there are plans in health. Do you see a representation of this money, which every year we're told is spent? Now, how then does somebody who's been in that position, maybe you are a one-term governor, and you want to claim that you want to come back, or you've been a 2-term governor, and that the indictment against you is even heavier.
Yeah.
Because you've had 10 straight years. And then you want some other public position where you can do what exactly?
Yes.
When 10 years you are unable, with the resources at your disposal and the power to support it at your
disposal, to actually
yes.
use those resources.
And then you now want to tell us that you want to aspire for yet another higher position.
When the one you've done before, you've bungled it completely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you can show us your enhanced capacity for bungling. Nah.
This particular case is actually really, really sad because it deserves greater national attention. The life of this gentleman is as important as all other lives. The life of 25-year-old Tom Okwach, who now the rescuers are saying they don't know. They don't know whether he's still alive. They don't know whether he's died. By the time they were rescuing these three gentlemen, Jacob, Philip, and Victor, on the 8th of December, they were saying that they could still hear Tom
knocking.
But now, the rescuers are saying they don't know.
Today
of course he's
is
weak.
the 13th of December.
It's 10 days later.
10 days later. No food, no
and
water.
he was alone. At least these are three guys who are together. They kept, encouraging one another,
right.
saying, let's pray, we shall come out, we shall do this and the other. This guy is alone.
Eric, one of the things that they do in such situations, the equipment we're talking about actually specialized. When they've assessed, one of the first things they do is you want to make sure that there's oxygen being funneled into. Basic. So
First thing.
So these guys are going to be
Keep him alive.
Then you don't just dig. You know the soil composition. You know the depth. You want to avoid further collapse.
Yep.
So it's not a speedy activity. And then you also require cameras so that you have an idea of where these people act. That's why they're called specialized equipment. A bulldozer is not a specialized equipment for this sort of work.
It's not. It's not.
It's just the complete opposite
Yes.
of what you need.
A bulldozer.
Two bulldozers digging until they run out of fuel.
It may do more harm than good.
Yeesh.
They mean well, but doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
This is where we say that if we had a proper national disaster management authority, would be asking these questions of this.
Exactly.
We
And
would
all of
actually
those things then would have
we would
been
just go
aligned.
directly to them.
Yes.
Right, because then the understanding is with an authority such as that, then there's an understanding at the intricate level of what needs to be done in any disaster, whether you're talking about fire, whether you're talking about building collapse, whether you're talking about earth collapse, whatever it is that you're looking at. There is an understanding at that level that in each disaster situation, this is what ought to have been done. Like now in this case, who are you going to go and ask and say, explain to us why you did this and not this? Who?
You'll ask the DO. The DO is like the
Who will
best.
you ask?
No.
But
It
look at
isn't-
other
it isn't the
situations.
DO's purview.
Look at other situations. For example, when we had those terrible fires in Rome, for example, to the letter, and they were able to ask exactly what happened, and then they traced that back. No, it was in Paris.
Paris.
They traced the bad fire to a tourist having lit a cigarette. And the cigarette then was left, the embers were left. That's how that fire started, in a wrong place. So you can imagine traceability, then even how you fight it, and then start to reconstruct things. Who do you want to go and ask in a case like this, the details of what happened? And then after that, who do you want to go and ask about at this level when you were bulldozing, for example? Who made the decision and why did they make a decision in that manner? Who are you going to ask?
And also think about it, there's a parent ministry that oversees such activities. Now you tell me, they must have policies, they must have bylaws, they must have regulated structures that you must abide by if you want to set up a mine and do the other, meaning you must have this. Is that not so?
Yeah.
All right. And then we assume that when these things are set up, there must be a supervisory body. But in addition to this, knowing the dangers that are fraught in this particular sort of work, surely the safety measures that ought to be taken, where are they? Where are they?
Very big questions. Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes after 7. Mukoya, good morning to you. He says, always tuned in from Darajani in Kibra, Nairobi, the only place to find true talks. Yes, clarified information. Very good. Asante sana for tuning in wherever you're locked in this morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM, and also live streaming online. SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter.
This is The Situation Room. the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. "24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Sisi watu ya Rift Valley tunapenda publicity. Jacket ya msichana yangu, dress ya mama yake. Ama namna gani?
Western Kenya sikukuu ya Christmas ni ya kumix them, gather them. Unakula kila kitu mpaka unachoka.
Hapana, wacha tufurahi zote, tufurahi through to the new year in the city.
Sisi hapa Eastern ni kukula na kulala 28 hours in a day.
Sisi wa pwani tunapenda vitu vya kudumu, ndio maana nafurahia back to school.
Hapa Central tunapenda ile offer ya Naivas ya back to work. Kazi lazima iendelee bila madeni.
Celebrate Christmas kiloko with Naivas' freshest festive offers. Shop with your Naivas card and bonus points with 2,000 Bob shopping vouchers.
We're still looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, and sun will peak out at some point. We'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly sunny at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 26. 23 will be the high in a cloudy Nyeri at 18. And we're looking at sunny conditions in Eldoret, going to highs of 25 and lows of 23 today. In Mombasa, mostly cloudy at 27. That rain has stopped for now. 31 will be the high and lows of 24. Mostly cloudy at 28 in Malindi with highs of 31. Kisumu is mostly sunny at 22. We're looking at sunny conditions at 23 in Kakamega, and it'll go to highs of 31. Kampala is mostly cloudy at 18, highs of 28. And Dar es Salaam still raining at 25, highs of 29. Johannesburg raining as well at 16, highs of 19. And Lagos is partly cloudy at 27. We'll go to a warm high of 35 today. Kinshasa will see highs of 32. It's currently cloudy at 23, which will be today's low.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working, and the assistant chef, wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Still looking good, folks, but why? There's some traffic on Mombasa Road. It's still slow. Okay, so there's heightened construction on Mombasa Road this week. 15th December was supposed to be that day when, they'll be open, those roads. 15th December is 2 days from today.
My dear.
Yes?
The discussion about the roads, I think there is a constant that we must adhere to. And the constant is there'll be promises made and not kept, okay? So if we go by that, then please continue what you're saying. Yes, the 15th.
So they're going to open those roads. So you see the traffic that you're seeing this morning on certain parts of Mombasa Road, even when there's a holiday. So, it'll be looking much better. They'll open those roads that they had previously closed, and we should not be having this issue that we are currently experiencing. Sawa. Looking good. And other parts of the city, just a little bit there at the roundabout of Haile Selassie. Apart from that, folks are in good stead and staying off the roads until we have to do the rat race again tomorrow morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
But then, did you say that you have not watched Game of Thrones?
I have not watched Game of Thrones, even 1 minute of one episode.
Yeah. City, have you?
Of course.
All of them.
Am I behind them?
7 seasons.
See, you know what you need to do.
Showmax has all of them. All Game of Thrones, all 7 seasons.
I can start from 1.
Yes, start from the first episode.
If you're adventurous, start with the end. Really adventurous, okay. If it ends here, okay. Let's see how it begins.
Let's see how it begins. Right. Everything is there on Showmax.
Okay.
So you talk about such series, all of them there. So when
One
you
place.
start, let's say you're traveling to Nigeria, start now, episode 1, season 1, episode 1 here as you're waiting to board JKIA until you land. You finish season 1.
I can download them
and watch. Yes.
See now?
And you know your children
worry
like
about
watching, you can also download that one. And you know on
Wi-Fi
what?
on the plane.
Showmax. Hey, Sasa, you tell me, even on that trip from the airport to wherever it is that you're going, to the southernmost part of Nigeria, where you come from, you can continue watching. So all you do from time to time is look up and say, oh, I remember that tree. And then continue. Yes.
I'm liking this plan though.
This is it.
I'm telling you.
And it's only 300 shillings a month. And if you subscribe today, there's a Christmas offer. There's a festive season offer by Showmax. You subscribe to Showmax today, either the Showmax original at 300 shillings or Showmax Plus at 1,050 a month. You get an extra 1 month free.
See that one?
In January now is covered.
Yes. So you start watching Game of Thrones for only 300 bob. You watch all of them.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, it's 24 minutes to 8. The conversations continue. We're talking about what's big in the news coming from the weekend. You're giving us a story of what happened in Nigeria.
Right.
An accident.
Yeah, just looking at this whole disaster management. So last week, we're talking about just a few days ago. Unfortunately, there was a school bus accident. And I'm just going to give you the exact details of what happened. So there was an accident. A bus that was coming from school was now in the city center, and it rammed into another vehicle, right? Now, on that ramming, it combusted, obviously. And there was a fire that now engulfed most of the bus and the other vehicle. Now, as the fire was raging, it was people were calling fire department, fire engines, come. But while that was happening, there were people then who were running helter-skelter, pulling children out of the bus. You know, in terms of now managing the situation, it was terrible. There were children then who died being pulled out of the bus who did not need to have died because of the manner in which this was happening. The driver of the bus then also joined everybody else running, trying to get water from where they could get it. There are a lot of children who died on the bus. I believe the number now after
20.
was 20. You know, so of course it puts people in mourning. But then the question is, in terms of a management authority, in terms of just managing these disasters, how do we get it done? Is there even the mental wherewithal to say that when things go bad, this is what we ought to do? And this is just one small part of Lagos, a very, very small part of Lagos. How many more disasters like this happen? All right, let's look just a few weeks before that. There was the huge a building collapse that happened in Ikoyi, right? The building was close to completion. But on a certain day, people just started hearing rumblings in the middle of the week. And we're talking about a 50-plus story building in Ikoyi, which is a really posh area of Lagos, right? This entire building came down. I believe the death toll at the end of this was 100-plus people. There are hundreds of people who are in hospital. The rubble is still being sorted out a couple of weeks later, which, of course, is understandable. But again, what did we see? That there are masons who normally their job is to carry soil or cement from point A to point B, now who are taking their pickaxes and shovels.
So the first responders.
Yes. And nobody's asking questions. How are we going to go about this? How are we going to assess it? No. 24 hours later is now when you have Lagos State Authority coming in now to say, okay, let bulldozers again, let's now try to move the rubble, let's move people. It was one of the worst of this year, 2021. But then, do we not see the similar thread running through here? How then do we handle these disasters? It's the same thing.
It just begins with the first aid training and response training, emergency response training. You'd assume that, well, yeah, we do a bit of this in school. Oh, first aid, how do you do? What do you do? But we actually don't put this, we don't put much seriousness in this in our school system. Our children, for example, taught in the event of an accident and you're in a vehicle, what do you do? Are we taught that in school? We're not. So the bus has this thing at the back, is written emergency door. What does that mean, emergency door? That the emergency will come in through there, or what?
Or that the door has an emergency.
Or that the door has an emergency. What does it mean? How do you make use of that emergency door in the event of an emergency, like a fire inside the bus?
Eric, you know, when you talk about being trained in school, we think of children. I would take it to parents where they were trained and the parents before them. Have you ever seen situations where there's a car with a child in the front seat leaning out of a window?
Yeah.
You literally hold your head. I have actually had occasion to have hooted and pointed.
And you point. And they look at you and they're like,
yes, and you point and say, and it's like, what is the matter with you?
You are the one who has an issue.
Yes. And by the time a child is leaning out of the window, it means they don't have a safety belt.
Yes.
All you require is an emergency brake.
Seat.
That's it. Can you imagine the amount of harm that child is actually going to encounter?
Yep.
Yes.
I can't. I just want to read you a little bit. I'm just going back to this Lagos incident of this building, right? So it was a luxury apartment building. The owner, by the way, of the building also died in this incident. Only 15 people survived, and they survived with terrible injuries.
How many floors was that building?
It was 21 floors, right?
Those are many.
So there were auxiliary buildings as well. So now when you look at everything else that was... So the apartments themselves were 21. Then the buildings that you had adjacent to, so you had services plus that, stories here, about 4 here, another one, 3. So it all came to about 50, right? But what is it doing is that the building collapse has caused outrage in Nigeria around the entire country and calls for recriminations against the government and regulatory authorities. At least 7 people. Today is the 13th of December.
Yeah.
At least 7 people are officially recorded as missing. They still have not been found until today. Although many, many more could be unaccounted for. So those who've come out and said, I can't find my person, and I know that they were working here, are 7. There's more. The collapse of the 21-story high-end apartment block has fueled anger and a renewed focus on potentially deadly malpractices and alleged corruption within Lagos's booming property development industry. Excavators at the scene continue to hack through the debris a week after the collapse and more than 3 days since any living survivor was found. Anyone that is found now, I think, is likely that they would have died. This is an official of the Nigerian Emergency Management Agency at the scene. This was a couple of weeks ago, speaking on condition of, guess what? Anonymity. Families hopeful of retrieving remains of their loved ones say the rescue attempt has itself been dysfunctional and could have killed potential survivors. So even the way in which you're going in to save people is a threat in itself, that it's possible these people could die by these rescue attempts because there's no cohesion, there's no plan, there's no proper assessment. And in this case, an emergency management authority does exist.
It's in place.
Yes.
Right.
So then you have to ask yourself, all right, how then, if life had any value in this country, wouldn't they, the rescue workers, have been working in a better and organized manner? This is a question from somebody who you think is uneducated and has no idea because their brother is a mason in this building. But that person has an understanding to say, if we valued life, if we valued
there should be order.
Life,
I mean, those are
there
basics.
should be order.
But we don't actually have any of those basics. Even in this country, when there's a road accident, you'll find first responders will be people who are around there. The public, they'll come in and they'll be holding people in whatever manner.
In the way that they think they can.
Let me tell you.
Shika uyu toa hapa.
You know, sometimes
we talk about this all that. Every time you see this and you're like, You know, you could be harming that person. You don't know about their backbone, their spine. You could be injuring it. You don't know how much, the extent of their injuries. You don't know how to support them. You don't know all these things. Okay, we say this. But where are we supposed to learn these things? I've got to confess myself, I don't know. If I was a first responder in an emergency, all those things that talk about a keyboard warrior, take care of their spine, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, so this is an emergency.
All right.
A vehicle has rolled and there are people inside.
What do you do?
So what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Or there's been an accident on the road and say 3 or 4 cars are involved. What do you do?
What do you do?
If you haven't had that first aid training, you wouldn't know what to do. That's just the truth. You can't guess.
Do you know why many accidents are exacerbated? There's an accident. Onlookers slow down to observe. Others come, that's it. Another accident will most definitely, certainly occur.
Let me tell you something else, because, sometimes people say don't beleaguer a point. But then for you to be able to understand really how serious a matter is, you probably need to go a little bit further into the details. And so this example that can be used in many other areas, some complain that it took days for the rescue workers after they arrived at the scene. Some rescue workers arrived just after. But witnesses saw rescue workers watching YouTube videos to work out how to use the excavators to save lives.
No, that is innovative.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I did.
So there were excavators there, and there are people who now do not know how to operate the machinery.
So they were watching YouTube
so they
videos
were, okay,
at
so
the
just
scene.
Okay, so what does it say? Press which one? Press which button? This one, no, press the button. Okay, so next thing, how do I lift this thing up? So that's what they were doing. We've also seen it here. A couple of years back in the Kibaki era, there was a building that collapsed in Nyamakema. And so police landed there. Police were unable to do anything. Military landed there. Military were unable to do anything. We had the president of Kenya had to request the government of Israel to send in rescuers to come and try and save people there. There's a woman who had been there for a couple of days, and she was rescued alive by the Israelis, who came in their sniffer dogs and all that.
There's specialized equipment.
Specialized equipment on how to respond. What did our president say then? We really thank the Israelis. In fact, what we are going to do is my government is going to commit. We're going to learn and get a lot of all this expertise from the Israelis, even the equipment. To date, no. You don't see it. Buildings collapse every week in Kenya, across the country, and it's the same. We don't know how to respond. We don't know these things. And I think it just needs to start from the basics of just the immediate first aid response training.
Eric, do you remember when these conversations that we're talking about preparedness began? Is 2 years ago, it was 1.5 years ago, when we had serious flooding in the North Rift. Okay? And entire communities were displaced. What we as the media don't highlight, some of those people have never returned home as we speak now. And some of those areas, the flooding didn't end, it increased. Okay? Now, if there was any lessons learnt from previous similar disasters, we would have known. We had politicians, we had one Bonanatembea telling us, there's a problem with our people and the understanding of it. That actually, he did what he could. There are agencies and their ministries whose job it is to ensure that whatever is required to forestall any damaging outcome, that's their job.
Yes.
Well in advance, because they know.
Yes.
Should this happen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to move people here. We're going to do here. Okay. You move into schools. Schools get flooded. Then what do you do? Move them to another school.
What next?
Okay, then what about the learning of the students? What do you do about the learning of the students? Because we talked about it at great length because it was a problem. And lo and behold, it's silent, but it doesn't mean that problem was resolved. So all these monies that are budgeted for by the way, you will find policies in these requisite ministries that tell you about policies and structures that should be followed and should be adhered to when these things happen. On paper, archived.
We have a policy, we have a disaster response strategy.
We do, and it's detailed.
Yep. This is all we shall do. The case you're talking about in West Pokot, So it has taken place. The military has been deployed. They can't fly in because of bad weather. So you have to land in Eldoret and then you have to go by road to...
And it's raining. So what state do you think the roads are in?
Yes. People have moved to schools. Those schools are flooded. They
moved to churches are flooded. So? And you know something? If it happened once every 10 years, you'd say, this thing happens once every 10 years, but still gives it time to plan. It doesn't. It happens every year.
It happens every year. That's the thing.
In Southern Sudan, 1 in 15 people are now facing a similar problem because over 700,000 people have been displaced because of flooding.
700,000 people.
7700, then comma, then 000. What? Displaced. Now, you know what that means? Food, malnutrition, disease, malaria, snake bites. Now you tell me.
That's a huge population.
Yep. That's an entire county. Displaced. So you tell me.
And of course, we're not talking about the people who are in one city who are displaced.
No.
It's in various parts of the country.
Yes,
so you're talking about a huge now logistical challenge.
Yes.
Or you've got to address meet the needs of all these people.
I mentioned it because
food, water, medicine.
Yes. And then you have to have makeshift camps, makeshift this. Now, you then wonder why it is that Kenya still has a reputation for housing some of the most refugees on the planet.
Yep.
We see what's happening in Ethiopia. Now you're seeing this natural disaster. What do you think? Where do you think they're going to head towards? Khartoum has its own problems. So you think they're going to head towards Khartoum?
No.
Ethiopia has its own problems. You think they're going to head towards Ethiopia? They're going to come this way. And you know what our government has done over time? Because of these human catastrophes, a lot of foreign aid comes into the country.
Yep.
I get the distinct impression that our people budget with this foreign aid.
Okay.
Yes, there's a budget that the government puts forward as ours.
Yes.
And it's put aside.
This one is aside.
Let's look and see what the agencies are going to
What
give
will
us.
they bring?
If health, for the best part, and HIV care and treatment was managed by donor money, and it extended to other auxiliary services because of the opportunistic diseases, what makes you think that other ministries and departments
wouldn't do the same?
Even disaster.
Because it's the thinking.
Yep.
What makes you think?
It is, but you look at how we deal with hunger.
Yes.
So the budget is 8 billion shillings. The government has 2 billion.
Yep. And they keep repeating it.
We have 2 billion.
That means 6 billion has to come from
outside.
And since we have 2 billion, we've told you what we have.
Yeah, we have.
So
2
the other
billion.
6 is not coming from us. Yes.
We have only 2 billion, and there are people who are hungry and they need to be fed.
There's that detail, yes.
So you people are the ones who talk about human rights and all those things. You care about the lives of people.
Money.
So bring so we can feed the people.
And you media people who keep talking, you think 2 billion is little money.
Yeah, we have put in a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you ask a question, so the 2 billion, how is it being deployed? We've told you we have 2 billion. Okay?
We are buying food. We're taking it to the people.
Yeah, so what about the food that the other guys have given? Look, that's theirs. We are telling you we are buying.
Yes.
Yeah, but then why is it that there's still a shortage in this and this and this place? This is a problem with the media. They never see the good that the government is doing.
You start asking other questions here that actually don't.
Why? How is that relevant? So we've told you.
Jesus. There's a story on page 12 of the Standard, which is another bizarre story. This is in Homa Bay. Police in Homa Bay are trying to unravel the mystery behind the killing of several head of cattle in the area in the past 1 week. So far, the marauding gang has raided Ndiwa and Mbita, killing more than 35 cows and injuring dozens. Killing how many? More than 35 cows and injuring dozens. In Ndiwa sub-county, 18 livestock were killed and at least 100 seriously harmed in some 10 villages yesterday alone. The animals' bellies had been cut, leaving their intestines protruding. Livestock rearing is a source of livelihood for a lot of the families affected in the Saturday night crime. Ndiwa sub-county police commander Paul Rioba said no livestock or property was stolen. These guys were just coming. They either kill or they stab people's cows and they go. You wake up in the morning, you basically just find that your cow is either dead or it has a deep stab wound. Its intestines are protruding. Valentine Okoh lost 2 cows that were killed and 6 others left with serious injuries. Rhoda Ouru, a widow, said she had been relying on her only 2 cows to pay school fees for her children. They were killed in the incident. It is sad for some to come and kill our cattle in such a manner. At Kochieng village, Owino, a resident, expressed fear that the gang might soon start attacking people. People's lives are also in danger because we don't know the motives of these attackers. The farmers lament over the unprecedented losses that the attacks are causing them. What is happening?
Why?
Because this is not theft. They are not coming to steal the cattle. They are not stealing anything. They're just coming, stabbing cows and going. Come, stab cows deeply, go. Why?
They're leaving a message.
Start.
Why?
The communities.
Yeah.
Which part? Is there history of animosity between them? Are they marauding gangs in that particular area? And what are suddenly, if they do exist, because they do, what are suddenly giving them impetus and this courage? Because unfortunately, crazy violence, spiraling violence, is one of the characteristics of an impending election in this country. And it's like lawlessness becomes the order of the day, okay? We may talk about it having started in Marsabit, in Laikipia, Isiolo, and now moving on to Baringo. But the problem is it's going to be mirrored.
It's in many other places.
Yes, it's going to be mirrored. It's like school fires. It's not any different. It starts in one place, and before you know it, it's here and there, and you're saying, hey, man, which part of the country is safe from this thing here? Eric, the question that one wants to ask is this. Are we saying that our intelligent forces do not know that some of these things are about to happen? I want to say they do.
There's intelligence.
Yes. Are we saying that they don't report it? I'm saying they do report it. So the question I would ask is, when they have reported it, what then happens?
Let me ask you, City. Which county is border Homa Bay?
Homa Bay is bordered by Kisumu County. It's bordered by Kisii. It is bordered by Migori County.
So why would there be an issue here?
Where? Mention the place.
In these two peculiars, Ndiwa and Mbita.
You know that, you brought in clan issues. You know why? Because Mbita, part of former Suba district, okay? Ndiwa is just plain Homa Bay. They used to be called Homa Bay district, right? Now, the only issue that would arise there are one, clan issues and political tensions that are being brought to the fore by bringing in goon squads to sort out these issues, because these aren't cattle thieves. Cattle thieves steal cows.
Yeah.
These
so they're sending a message.
Yeah, these are malicious people. So you need to ask:
are they trying to force people to move? Are there resident? Are there people who are resident here who are not indigenous to this place?
No.
Who could be saying that, the message here is we kill your animals until you decide, okay, you know what, let's move out of here.
Or it could be that you did something to us previously and we are now...
It's payback time.
It's payback time.
Those particular areas are not known to have long-standing animosities. If such a situation had arisen in Korea, I would be able to explain to you what those clan issues were and what's happening. That particular area you speak about, if there are issues, they're being instigated. So you need to find out who these warlords are and why they're instigating it. It is not some commotion.
What reaction are they seeking? Because they're seeking a reaction.
I don't really understand that myself, but I do know that it's instigated.
Because if you injure a head of cattle in that manner, it's clear that you will not then be able to use it again.
Yes, there's a message that
so the message that's being sent here, you're stabbing, you're injuring, it's dying, and you're leaving it there. You're not taking it away.
Affecting your livelihood, your source of livelihood.
Directly of
people. Usually when somebody touches your source of economic wealth, they're not only sending you a message, they want to cripple you.
Yes.
Okay? So that's why I said you want to find out who, not which clan. It's not a clan. Which individuals have issues with each other. And sometimes it's your supporters who are targeted. So who is fanning this particular fire? You know what it could get down to is the fight for the governor's seat. Because that's what ties Ndiwa, that's what ties Mbita, that's what ties all those things. Because you leave Homa Bay town itself is 40 kilometers away from Mbita. Okay? Beautiful, lovely tarmac road. Okay? Those people have lived together in coexistence. I mean, they historically...
no issues.
Historically. There's nothing that you could say is an issue. So why are we suddenly having this particular problem? I as we're talking, I was trying to figure out what could have brought this animosity. I'm saying, I worked in that area for something like 17 years.
Yes, that's why we're asking you these questions. I mean, who are these? I mean, what is the composition of this particular county? It's completely bizarre.
There are one people. The question is who is fighting who?
And to what end?
Yes,
Who is
exactly.
being used
and
here?
the only political situation that I can see here, because if you're talking about member of parliament, they're distinct.
Anyway, let's continue this after the news. A very good morning to you. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Various candidates in the August 2022 elections have been asked to adhere to the law banning them from participating in Harambes across the country. Some political parties have written letters to their candidates after a law banned them from participating in donations 8 months before the election. This means that any candidate who donates money to a church, school, or even sponsorships is at risk of being banned from running for office.
The law says, Section 26 of the Elections Act, that a person who directly or indirectly participates in any manner in any or public fundraising or harambe within 8 months preceding a general election or during an election period in any other case shall be disqualified from contesting in the election held during that election year or election period.
However, IEBC chairperson Ofula Chebukati has clarified that the law does not stop candidates from fundraising for their own campaigns. Now, a family in Taita Taveta County is facing a number of life-threatening challenges after 3 of their sons contracted a terminal illness. Mama Ryle Joffrey says her boys were healthy before they fell ill and suffered paralysis that made them unable to walk. She says her children were forced to drop out of school due to their condition. The family has called on the government and donors to come to their aid, with doctors saying the treatment is costly.
The tests that are involved to make sure that they see if the gene is still so much prevalent in the family. The tests are also very expensive. And if they got somebody who can help them to make sure that, for example, if they get married, before they get married, they can be able to see if the gene is it still so dominant in the family. And another thing is they should make sure that people don't intermarry.
Now, Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi has said that he supports ODM leader Raila Odinga's bid for presidency next year. Kingi, who has been critical of ODM leadership and even expected to join Deputy President William Ruto's wing of the One Kenya Alliance, has said he will campaign for Odinga to boost Raila's support in the Coast region. In addition, Kingi, who formed the PAA party to include coastal politicians, said the PAA would not have a presidential candidate even though there will be candidates for other positions. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights says more than 10 million Kenyans continue to suffer adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic, especially because of job losses. Commission CEO Dr. Bernard Mogesa says more than 2 million jobs have so far been lost, causing serious effects to the livelihoods of their families. Mogesa says the government should come up with laws and policies to deal with labor-related issues during pandemics because the same was not covered under the existing legislation. He spoke in Eldoret, where the KNCHR launched 2 reports on the COVID-19 labor relations and access to justice. Israel's Naftali Bennett arrived in the United Arab Emirates Sunday for the first official visit by a Prime Minister of the Jewish state after the countries established diplomatic ties last year. The trip, announced by Bennett's office, comes with Israel making a renewed diplomatic push against international talks which global powers resumed with its act for Iran over the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. Bennett is today expected to meet with Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan to discuss deepening the ties between Israel and the UAE, especially economic and regional issues. And U.S. emergency workers are desperately searching for survivors of ferocious late-season tornadoes that killed at least 94 across several states and left towns in ruins, including the debris of a Kentucky candle factory, a symbol of the widespread devastation. But the state's governor, Andy Bansher, warned that the search in that facility in Mayfield, a town almost completely wiped out by the twisters, may be in vain, admitting another rescue may not happen there. President Joe Biden has called the wave of tornadoes one of the largest storm outbreaks books in American history, adding that they still don't know how many lives are lost and the full extent of the damage. He sent the heads of Homeland Security Department and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to Kentucky to assess the situation and promised the full gamut of federal aid. With the death toll all but certain to rise, scores of search and rescue officers were helping stunned citizens across the U.S. heartland sift through the rubble of their homes and businesses. And Carl Flash Tundo finished third overall in the season-closing KCB Guru Nanak Rally to clinch the fifth career Kenyan National Rally Championship title in Ilbisil. Baldev Singh Chaga wrapped up the 2021 season in the second position after winning the Sikh Union Club organized round. Karan Patel's second overall position in Ilbisil saw him move up to the fourth overall position in the final standing with 110 points. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Not much of it this morning. Good things. However, as you're getting to Jogger Road and then getting off going towards Landis and out towards Kamkunji, there seems to always be traffic there. We're going to have to continue watching out for that one. Coming out of Westlands, just a little bit on James Gishuro, heading out then towards Wayaki Way. Apart from that, nothing going on. I think you can get in and out without too much of an issue. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
7 minutes
Situation
after
Room.
8.
The
Very good
only
morning
way
to
to
you.
start
It's the
your
13th
day.
day of December 2021, a public holiday in the Republic of Kenya. People are enjoying it at home. If you're watching us from outside the country, well, happy post-Jamboree Day to you. It may not be a holiday wherever you are, but just enjoy it with us, okay? City Muga has their day's proverb.
Yes, kwa giza usifia tuwe mshale. Do not shoot, do not release an arrow in the dark.
Why?
Well, you really don't know what you're going to hit, do you?
No, but if you're fighting at night, what do you do?
No, shoot
You
an arrow,
run to where
my
there's
friend.
light. You run to where there's light.
Yeah.
Because if you're fighting in the dark, you may end up fighting furniture.
Or trees.
You really do not know what it is that you're fighting.
Or shooting your own people.
Or shooting your own foot.
Okay. That's a big one. So, you were telling us about the president's promise earlier, Ndu.
Yes. Right. So the previous promise was 33% of a reduction of fuel electricity prices. So that meant that essentially what you would chuck off a third of what you're currently paying for power. Either that or you would have an increase of a third of the amount that you would have for the same amount that you would spend. All right? So that was the promise a couple of months ago, and there was a regulatory authority and there was going to be a special committee that was put together to then work with the distributor to see how this could happen, right? And we were told that by the end of the year, this is what it would be. 33% is the number that we were being given. Now, Santa Claus came out yesterday in the name of the president, and he said, you know what's going to happen? We would have liked to have done 30 by now. And I know that was what we had said. However, because of certain constraints, I'm giving you that promise that by the end of this month, so in the next 17 days, you will see a reduction by 15% of your electricity bill. or the units that you then purchase for power. 15%, because right now, unfortunately, we're not able to do the 30% that we initially thought would be the case. We're not able to do that, but you have my assurance that by March 2022, as things pan and level off, we will then deliver this 30%, which I had promised to you. But you're going to see an improvement over the next 2 weeks. If you spend 1,000 shillings, you'll get 50 units of power. Boom. We're going to see that reduction from 24 to 20% immediately. The rest we will see in another 4 months. So yeah, Merry Christmas to you, folks. 15% reduction on your power bill. You will get more filling for your shilling in this case. Either that or you spend less. 850 shillings will give you the 50 units as opposed to getting 41 for 1,000 bob. It's a good thing, no? This is what we were told yesterday. And so then we couldn't do 33% by December.
It is
we will do
not
33% by March. So have a Merry Christmas with the 15% that we can offer you right now. Ho, ho, ho.
It is not a good thing.
Well, he's going to explain to us why he thinks it's not a good thing.
So the president made a promise, okay? So the first thing that the president did was he was intent on seeing a reduction, or at least understanding why we have very high power costs in this country. True?
True.
The president appointed a task force.
Yes.
True.
And he put in this task force people who he believed were able to the task, right? The task force took its time, came back with a report, and they presented their report to the president. They had a meeting. They presented their report. They said this, and the other. And Mr. President, actually, with this, we need to make this kind of take these kind of steps.
Yes.
The president must have asked, so what's going to happen if we take all these steps? The task force must have responded, we're going to see a reduction in the power prices. The president asked, how much, what is required here for us to reach, to achieve that? You just need to implement this task force report, Mr. President. Okay. So if we implement the task force report now, it's October, how soon can we start seeing a reduction in power prices? The task force must have told him, December, we'll see a reduction in power prices. Beaming with confidence, the president walked out of that and he said, fellow Kenyans, I appointed a task force. Task force has given me a report and I have said we are going to implement this report. And the task force has told me that we can reduce the power bills by 33% in December. With that, because the experts have told me, I am therefore directing that all efforts be made to make sure that we receive a 33% reduction in power bills in December. True?
True.
So now, when the president comes, and in fact he does not even mention 33, he mentions 30. Dishonesty number one. When the president comes and says, I want to keep a promise that I have made, and then he says, it shall be implemented in 2 tranches. That's not the promise that you made, Mr. President. Your promise was 33% in December. Like I told you the other day, if you've told me, board this bus, I will take you to Mombasa, and you then drop me, you tell me you will go to Mombasa in 2 weeks. My friend, that is not the promise that you made. If you take me to Mtitwandei and tell me now, get off this bus and
really that far
get
away.
onto that bus, it's not really far. That's not the promise. And that's why I'm looking back and say, okay, yeah, Mr. President, this is what you had said. This is not what you have delivered. He has not delivered what he promised. He says, he called it in his speech that he was keeping with his promise. Listen to what he said. Fellow Kenyans, ladies and gentlemen, now I will end my address by keeping a promise I made. By keeping a promise I made. On the 20th of October 2021, I directed the Ministry of Energy to fast-track the implementation of the recommendations of the Presidential Task Force on Power Purchase Agreements. I am pleased to note that the pathway to reduce the cost of electricity by over 30% is on course. That is not the promise he made.
No, it isn't.
This is what he said. Let me just play what he said yesterday during the speech.
I am pleased to note that the pathway to reduce the cost of electricity by over 30% is on course. In honor of this pledge to the nation and in response to the concerns of the high cost of electricity raised both by individual customers and enterprises, I am pleased to announce to the nation that the reduction of the cost of electricity will be implemented in 2 tranches of 15% each, with the first 15% achieved through initial actions focusing on system and commercial losses, and this will be reflected in people's bills in December of this year. A further 15% reduction will happen in the first quarter of
So that's what he said at 8:15. This is what the president said, that we shall get 15% this time and then another 15% in the first quarter of 2022. This means what? By March 2022. So a promise that was supposed to take 3 months has been extended to 6 months.
And he has kept the promise.
And he says he has kept the promise.
You know, I could argue that when somebody makes a promise and it's of a political nature, you must look at it with an eye of latitude. What do I mean? I mean, fine. The time period within which the president says he's going to keep the promise is based on what he has been told. Because it's not him who did the work. It's not. He's not the task force.
Yep.
He was informed.
Yep.
And it's clear that in between something else happens that I'm going to be latitude here. No one could have foreseen. Okay. It's like the nature of research. You start off with one proposition, and in the process of conducting your research, you realize there are things that you hadn't even thought of. So these things appear. So that timeline shifted. The fallacy, in my view, is in not explaining this discordance. In saying, folks, this is what we said, and this is what I said I'm going to do. But it's not going to be possible. You know why? This is what has happened.
This reason and the other.
And this is what we have seen. Yes. Okay? So because of this, I have to shift this whole thing, and it can't now be done in this time period. And here I'm going to tell you this, it's now possibility. What we can do now is 2%. Now. 2% we can do. In fact, tomorrow 2% will be reduced. But the other 28, we are going to work at it and we'll be informing you periodically how we are going to reduce it. Because we have to have discussions with our partners who are helping us produce this power.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to kick a fuss after that, that is, as we say, your own shauri, because you've been informed.
At least you've been informed.
Yes.
Also, when you say that, you're starting a research with a certain preposition, in March this year, when the president was forming the task force, if that was the time when he had promised that we are going to have a 33% reduction in power costs by December, by saying, I am appointing a task force, we shall have a reduction, I could say, okay, you appointed a task force, you only, that was just a wish that you had. But in October, he is not talking about, something that is wish. He gave a task force 6 months to go and completely understand the lay of the land with regards to power distribution in this country. The task force came back having understood everything and having made a recommendation that actually we can do this within a certain period of time. Okay? So this is not guesswork anymore. This is people who have gone, they have sat with Kengen, they have sat with Ketraco, they have sat with EPRA, they have sat with Kenya Power, they have sat with large consumers, they have sat with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, they have sat with all stakeholders and tried to understand, so what is happening in the power sector? They have sat with the independent power producers, they have looked at the contracts, they have seen, so what is happening in the power sector? Then they retreated and wrote a report. And in their report, they came and recommended to the president, implement this, and the other. The president asked, so when can I start getting the first reduction? They said December. And this is why I'm saying, it is not the March conversation. This is an October conversation with something solid in hand. And then the president started doing his bit. You need support? I'm going to give you the support. The ministry level are making changes. Moved the CS, moved the PS. Brought in a new CS, brought in a new PS. You people who have given me this report and you've said that this is what we need to do to implement it, do this, manage the implementation of your own report. You, acting MD Kenya Power, work with them. You, EACC, look at how you can support them. You, DPP work with EACC when they can. Everybody, the president did his bit. But the people who told him 33% was possible in December have now come and told him, you know what, Mr. President, that's what I'm saying. The president is not keeping his promise, and he should just come out and say, you know what, I gave these guys a job. They haven't been able to do the job.
Actually, if I'm to use the discipline of research as an example, what you're discussing now is what we call peer review. So you've given us a report. Other stakeholders, like-minded stakeholders, meaning us consumers, we now look at this thing and say, you said. Other stakeholders, the IPP guys. Okay. Other stakeholders, Katrako. Other stakeholders,
Kenya Power Managers.
Other stakeholders, the general reality. Now, under the stark brightness of that particular review, you'll realize, Adi, December, 33%. Yeah.
Okay, so if this was the case, then what was the and I guess that's the thing. What was the problem without, because I don't think the realization dawned on everybody yesterday. This was obviously something that was beforehand. So what would have been wrong with earlier in the game saying, okay guys, this was our projection, this is what we thought we would have been able to do, because of 1, 2, 3 factors, then we are not able to deliver on that. Because you hadn't given it to Kenyans anyway. Kenyans were still organizing their lives with the high cost of power. They were still doing it. It's not as though you had given it to them and taking it away. They had not experienced it yet. So what would have been wrong with just coming back and saying, you know what, actually, guys, this is what we hoped we would have been able to do. We are not able to deliver on this particular thing. So accept this one before we now move forward. Because it's not as though Kenyans came to you and said, please give us 30% reduction in power. No, it's something you came and said, this is what we're going to do for you. Then Kenya said, okay, wonderful. We're expecting it by December. Bring it. Along the line, you realize that you can't do it. Just say, we can't.
You can't
take
actually.
15.
You actually can't just say it.
You can't tell the truth?
No, not really.
Why?
No, you can't.
Why?
The analogy that I'm using of research, let me belabor the point, but it's something that perhaps bears a lot of relevance to what we're saying here. You then find out this thing that you had not anticipated you will find. Okay? Now, why I'm saying no so very firmly is because of what we call the human element in everything that we say. Okay? One of the biggest problems that researchers have is confronting the reality of what they see and the reality of what they believe ought to be. You are in the middle of an African community in the rural areas, and you are looking at something as simple as male genital hygiene. Okay? And one of the questions you ask, of course, are people's sexual habits. And you ask the question, have any of you ever been in a sexual relationship with a man? You're in the rural areas, okay? And somebody says, yes, I have.
Somebody being male or female?
Male.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
The respondent here is male.
He is male, and he says, yes. Now, that is where now your understanding of what you're doing will have a very sharp conflict with the reality of what you have in your mind. Because most people believe that men who have sex with other men are found in town. They're not found in the rural areas. It'll be a clash, a monumental clash. So now, how do you deal with this information? And how do you talk about it? But more importantly, how do you deal with homophobia, which you might have yourself? You may have issues with it. And it all comes out at once. Now, why am I giving this analogy? You've come up and you've talked to people and they've told you, the human element, you've believed what they've told you. And now when you're about to put it into operation, because you're conducting research, there are certain facts that are coming into play at that time which are contrary to what you've been told. And what makes it worse, you've already gone and told the president of the nation that this is the situation.
Yes.
How on earth do you do an about turn? Now, the human element is what is making me say no. Because you can know this is what you ought to say. How do you say it? The human element again is, we are supposed to have given something definitive and we missed something, or we didn't quite consider this. Do we go back now?
If people misadvise the president, CT,
it's not misadvising.
if people,
they're not misadvising.
If people went, I mean, what other human factors are we talking about here?
It is not misadvising.
Look,
it is
you've
giving
done your
information.
research, you've done your report.
Yes.
Now you're coming to implement that.
Yes.
So they already told you that, yes, we men in the rural areas have had sexual relations with fellow men.
Yes.
And you've come in here and you've said so. Then, when you're talking about MSMs, you need to also include these people in the rural areas.
Yes, you do.
So, and then at the point of implementation, what happens?
Now,
the men start telling you, no, we don't.
I have brought in the human element into it because the person may have told you in that research room where there are two people, but they're not going to come out in the open and tell the whole world.
Yeah, but you are the one who didn't factor in how to deal with them later.
You couldn't have. Again, the human element. It's even worse in a political sphere.
Let's take a couple of calls. Ali in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, a lady and two gentlemen.
Good morning,
sir. Morning, Ali.
You've made my day today, particularly that is the second day of the Jamboree Day.
Yeah, kabisa.
I bought some power token 2 days ago or 1 day ago. And I find out that the rate that I'm supposed to be charged to be 15% less, it was never. The rate that I'm charged in December is still the same rate that I was charged in October, September, and even the nearest month that is in November. So there is no 15% in December.
He says it will start at the end of the month.
At the end of the month of December?
Yes.
So now I have to stay dark until the end of the month of December. I get that 15% of mine.
Yes. If you are on postpaid,
yes,
then your bill at the end of the month will reflect a 15%. If you're on prepaid, it will not reflect, I think, until the end of December.
Who is the better person? The person who pays you in advance for using your product, or the person who pays it after using the product?
Yeah, one who gives you cash in advance, I guess.
So why shouldn't I be benefiting?
Sasa mimi sijui kaka.
Mimi nakuachia, nitasema sisemi kitu. Bye
Asante,
bye.
thank you very much, Ali. Kennedy in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks.
How are you doing, CT Muga?
I'm doing very well, thank you, sir. And how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm not complaining. God is in control. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm all right, darling. All right, this is the case, all right? You know, the Bible says that you will know the truth, and the truth that you know will actually set you free. Do you know that phrase?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, you see, I'm just having a very serious, actually, problem with President Uhuru's administration. Why do I say that? Because truly speaking, the advisors and the experts that are actually employed to bring information to the president are completely full of a lot of fiction, and I'm not afraid to say that. Because how can you actually how can you promise us actually water and you are delivering alcohol? Because you see, it is not only this one. This thing has actually been mirrored in two occasions. The first address on the state of the government was actually full of fiction. And on this case, I would request and beg you guys to actually bring. There is a guy called Owino. He's an economist, and will actually just give you the state of our nation right this time.
Kwame Owino.
We will really give you the real picture, because now these ex-president's experts are actually full of fiction, and we cannot trust them, because now by them telling us lies, they're misleading, because we are expecting them to give us the real deal so that we just forge the pathway to really follow and just get it right. Because now fictions will lead us to a serious disaster. We don't want to live on a mirage. Okay?
Yes.
So therefore, we write this time. These people should know that the technology has actually informed us, and we are very agile. If they repeat this next time, we will just take them to court, because we need the truth that will set us free to forge and realize the destination of what is actually lying ahead. We don't want experts who are full of lies trying to actually sugarcoat things which are not real on the ground.
I'm 100% with you, Kennedy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. You guys are doing a wonderful job. I love you so much, all right?
Asante.
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 All right.
0719-012-600. Yeah, so the president came and said he's keeping the promise that he made in October with regards to reduction of power bills. And he says it'll now be implemented in 2 tranches. The first tranche takes place end of this month, December, 15%. Kenya Power is supposed to look at its own system losses and efficiencies, work on those efficiencies, and find a way to reduce the bill by 15%. The second bit will be with discussions with the independent power producers. And the president, in fact, is asking the independent power producers to play ball, be patriotic, understand that we need the people to see a reduction in power bills. Now, can you do something about it? That's what the president is asking them. Has the president lived up to his promise? Has the president lived up to his promise? That's the question.
As promise was given, then the answer is clearly no. Then the but has to come in, Eric, because you say, was he making this promise with mechanics that he was in complete control of? That he made a promise based on information that he had been given by someone else, and this someone else is the one who failed in the delivery of the same, and then now he couldn't deliver. When you make a promise and it involves something else that someone else then is privy to or will partake of, then will you or can you be held 100% responsible?
The buck stops with the president. You're the one who made the promise. You're the one. This is a presidential task force, okay? So you give them the job. The terms of reference were clear from you. They came back. Did they respond to your terms of reference? If they did, then you're satisfied. You accept their report and you accept their recommendation and you accept the way forward. You have to question them at that point. If you do, then the next thing is you go out and say, having sent out this task force, having listened to what they've told me, having looked at what they've said, here is the promise. And I am going to do this, 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 and the other. Now, you can't come back and operate as if that's not the promise you made. Come back and be truthful to us and come back and say,
or
you know what, I told you 30%.
30%.
Okay, this is what's going to happen. We're not going to do 30% immediately for one reason, this, and the other. But come out and just don't make it appear like we're the ones who didn't hear you. This is not the first time we have talked about the president behaving as if we are the ones who didn't understand him the first time. Remember, we've discussed it here before.
We have.
I don't remember what it was about. And we're saying, Mr. President, this is not what you had said.
The reason why you can't remember, it isn't on one issue.
It was on many.
Yes.
We'll be thinking about them. It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a break. We'll pick your calls shortly after this. 0719-012-600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the invites says, kuna jina kama yangu.
The weather with
in the forecast in
SpiceFM.
Nairobi. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly sunny conditions at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 14. 15 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's mostly cloudy, highs of 23. In Eldoret, mostly sunny at 22 with highs of 25. Looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa, 28, highs of 31 and lows of 25. While in Malindi, it's cloudy at 29 with highs of 30. We'll see lows of 25. Kisumu is mostly sunny at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 31 and lows of 20. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 25 in Kakamega with highs of 31. We'll see lows of 17. Out in Kampala, it's mostly cloudy, highs of 28. We're looking at rain still in Dar es Salaam with highs of 29 and lows of 24. Lagos, partly cloudy at 27 and rain in Johannesburg at 16, going to highs of 19. While Kinshasa is mostly sunny at 23. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 22. Not too crazy of a traffic situation at all in most parts of Nairobi, and also looking at other parts of the country as well. East-west looks pretty good. Mombasa Road, though, a little bit of traffic in and outbound right around Imaradaima. Other parts of the city, not an issue whatsoever. A little bit that was around Westlands, but that has been sorted out. Let's keep talking through the morning. Doesn't look like we'll have traffic most of today. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Happy holidays, everybody. Happy holidays wherever you are. Now, because of the holiday season, Showmax has a festive season offer. You subscribe to Showmax today during this festive season. For a month, you get an extra 1 month free. That means subscribe for 1 month and you get 2. There are 2 packages that you can go for. There's Showmax Pro that gives you access to kids programming, to series, to documentaries, to movies, and also to live sport from Supersport. And then there's Showmax, which is 300 shillings. Gives you all those things minus just the live sport and live news. 300 bob. Showmax Pro, 1,050. Get that and you get an extra 1 month free. I mean, how is that for a Christmas gift? You're thinking of gifting somebody? This is the way to go, City, right?
You can't do better, can you?
Never. This is the only way.
This is something you receive during the Christmas period, but you have it on to the new year.
Yep. And you continue. Now, all you need to be doing is just paying the subscription fee, 300 bob, and you have all the entertainment available to you, with you, wherever you go. 24 minutes to 9.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.9.
So the conversation continues. Yesterday, at the conclusion of his speech, as of his national address yesterday, the president said he wants to keep a promise that he made. On the 20th of October, I directed the Ministry of Energy to fast-track implementation of the recommendations of the Presidential Task Force on Power Purchase Agreements. I'm pleased to note that the pathway to reduce the cost of electricity by over 30% is on course. In honor of this pledge to the nation and in response to the concerns over the high cost of electricity raised by both individual consumers and enterprises, I'm pleased to announce to the nation the reduction of the cost of electricity will be implemented in 2 tranches of 15% each. First tranche, 15%, comes by focusing on Kenya Power's systems and commercial losses to be reflected in the December bills, and a further 15% in the first quarter of 2022. Now, the president in October had made a promise of 33% reduction in December. The president comes in December and says, actually, we are on course to delivering the promise. We shall do it in 2 tranches, 15% now, and then the other later. Now, has the president kept his promise? Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a cause to celebrate, or is it not? I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I don't see why I'm celebrating.
He has kept his promise.
Okay.
Yes. You see, what are we asking whether a promise delayed is not a promise kept? Are we saying
a promise kept in part? It's not
yes,
a promise kept.
You've actually taken that right out of my mouth.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Or are we saying that we must premise our promises with the installment package fully in store, saying, by the way, I'm making this promise, but in the future, just be knowing that this is essentially the goal, 33%. But
shall be progressive.
Yes, we may start with 3%, 10, 15, but I will keep you informed as we go along. The point you make is a valid one, Eric. And perhaps it's an opportunity for us to begin a culture where this idea and spirit of public participation is actually brought in as a reality of our everyday lives. And it starts with the head of the nation, where you talk to your people as fellow citizens. Call us fellow citizens, treat us like fellow citizens, not like junior citizens, befuddled citizens. No, citizens. This is what we said, this is what I said, this is what we agreed. The reality is this. Tell us. Talk to us and give us the details so that we don't go around asking these questions. And if we do, we are asking questions from position of information because you already told us. And we can reference and say, by the way, folks, maybe you missed that particular bulletin, but we were informed about these details. So nothing is out of step. Plans can be made, plans can be changed, but can we be told about the changes? Better still, can we be informed about why the changes? These are plans made by men, for heaven's sake.
I don't think there's anything wrong about giving a status report, situation report, status update. Tell us. Because, again, like I said, Kenyans did not come to your door begging and saying, please give us a 30%. This was a decision.
We wanted a reduction. We didn't say how much.
But nobody forced you to put together this committee.
Yes.
Nobody forced you to then come out and make the announcement. Nobody said, please, this is how you should go ahead and do it. The prices are high, that's for sure. Is there nothing that you can do with the regulatory authorities and then see that the cost of power can come down? Sure, there was that. Now, nobody forced you to do what you went ahead and did, right?
Yep.
So that means that there was still the state of expectation. So when you gave them, you had not delivered it yet. You hadn't delivered it. Kenyans did not start to enjoy this thing. There would have been nothing wrong with coming out and saying, okay, folks, I know I said 33. This is what the situation on the ground is. Things, maybe we have to tweak them a little bit here and there. We'll be able to deliver, but we'll not be able to deliver within the time frames and within the parameters that we initially thought. If you ask me, that makes you come out smelling like a rose much more than this debacle that we are seeing currently. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Coming out and saying, look, we thought that we would do this. But then, to be able to do that, you would have had to have some kind of practice in the past, whereby even with other things, like UHC and other things which you had come out and said, look, we've not come out, or like even the Big Four, we've not been able to deliver as we thought. Tell people. Nothing is what you're delivering them now, but there's something, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, right? And they've given that to you. Or the government can give that to you where you didn't have it before. Yes. And then we'll bring the rest.
You know,
we can understand that the promise has been broken because there are certain things that you could not
I am
handle.
not understanding any of that.
Then tell us. Tell us.
I am refusing to understand. You know why? I'm refusing to understand because the task force had spent time on the ground. Okay? The task force came back and said, let's go this route. And they said, if we implement this report, we shall see a reduction in 4 months' time. The task force said it. Now, has there been any stumbling block? Has anybody gone to court to stop the task force from working? No. Has anybody gone to court to say, oh no, Ambassador Monica Juma cannot move from defense to go to energy? No. Oh, Gordon Kihalangwa, the retired general, cannot be the PS? No. Has anybody said the acting MD of Kenya Power cannot be acting? No. Has anybody gone to... No, nothing. What have we seen? We have seen action being taken. Senior managers at Kenya Power have been suspended. We have seen lifestyle audits commencing at Kenya Power. We have seen all these things taking place. Now, these are part of the recommendations, I'm assuming, of the task force, which was saying, if we start and we go fast, we shall achieve this in 4 months' time. They're the ones who said it. And they told the president. And the president listened. I'm actually looking at the speech from the State House that came out on that day in October. And this is what they said. The president has also examined and welcomed the recommendations of the task force that establish a path towards the reduction of the cost of electricity by over 33% within 4 months. Not 30%. 33% within 4 months. The consequence of the proposed interventions is that a consumer who previously spent 500 shillings per month on electricity shall, by the 31st of December, pay 330 per month. The cost reduction will be achieved through reduction of consumer tariffs from an average of 24 shillings per kilowatt hour to 16 bob per kilowatt hour, which is about 2/3 of the current tariff. Tariff, who's in charge of tariff? It's not IPP. It's not a negotiation. It is a conversation between the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, the people who sell power, and the people who buy power. Are those in our control? No. Is EPRA a government entity? Yes. Is EPRA under the Ministry of Petroleum? Yes. Are those in existence? Yes. Have we seen a conversation about tariffs taking place? No, we haven't. Why? I refuse to understand. In affirmation of this seminal and progressive solution to a decades-long problem, His Excellency the President has directed the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Energy to secure the immediate implementation of all the recommendations of the task force by Christmas Day 2021. The President said this. The President comes on the 12th day of December and says, we are on course. No, we are not on course, Mr. President. We are behind schedule. That's my point.
So are you accepting of reasons as to why they could be behind schedule?
He has not given us the reasons why we are behind schedule.
Now, this is what the demand should be.
He is coming to say he has kept his promise of a 30%. He has not.
Why? You are the same person at some point, Eric, who said when there was the non-delivery of the Big Four agenda. Remember?
Yes.
No, he said, because certain things we would have started, created the foundation and then moved forward.
That's what the president said. In fact, that's the conversation. That was the conversation.
Yeah.
Remember when he said the president was gaslighting us? The president came and said, by the end of my tenure, we shall have universal health access.
Yes.
We shall have manufacturing. We shall have food security in the country. We shall have adequate housing.
Affordable housing.
Right? In last year's State of the Nation address before Parliament, the president said that this Big Four was basically laying the foundation. It shall not be realized within my tenure. That is not the promise that you had made in 2017, Mr. President. That's the same thing I'm saying today. When you commit and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomorrow, and then you come tomorrow and tell me we are on course to getting 1. You have not met your promise.
You know, Eric, your position and your position is actually almost difficult to argue against because it deals with the facts, one fact after another. I attempted to add another fact, and I'm going to repeat it. It's called the human element. But it's actually premised and positioned on what you call a political situation, okay? And the realities of the sort of promises that presidents make or leaders make. No, let me not water it down with leaders. Presidents make because they are actually aspirational. This is what I want to do. This is what I'd like to do. Now, where task force and such individuals come in is, it is their job, it is their task to make sure that these things are fulfilled. Now, something seems to have escaped them. The need, you put it well, situational report. Situational report doesn't mean you tell us what you think we want to hear. No. It's you tell us what is actually happening. This is what we promised. This is what we started to do. Now, 3 months down the line, this is what we are seeing. Or if you're giving it 6 months, we even said in between this is what we're going to do. We have, however, found out that that is not the case. The case, as we see it, is this and this and this. That seems to have escaped those who are positioned to make these decisions and to come up with these solutions completely. They never come back to say if there's a hurdle, if there's a problem. They never do. They just change course and give you a new promise as though that is a continuation of the other. And Eric, that's why I said I can't argue with what you're saying, because it isn't a continuation. It's a change. It is a change. And you must talk about it as it is. Set the example of being people who actually say things as they are.
Yeah.
This culture of always being vague is a really deadly culture. Because then you really can't tell what is the truth and what isn't. Because the truth is, as you manufacture it and as you go along.
Yeah, the truth keeps changing.
And just listen to the things that politicians say. It made us this exactly.
You know, I think it's a culture that we have as Kenyans, that for us, as long as I'm doing something about what I promised to do, I'm meeting my promise. I'm meeting my end of the bargain.
Even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah. I leave home in the morning and I tell my child, I'm going to bring you biscuits in the evening. Okay? So I come home in the evening and I don't come with biscuits, but I come with one lollipop.
Yes, it's a cousin of a biscuit. Or, remember Okonkwo and the chicken?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
Okeke comes home in the evening, no chicken. Now, can you imagine if Okeke was coming home? Okay, so he hasn't brought chicken, but he has brought you managu.
You know...
Siyote ni mboga.
You know Okeke is insulting you.
Siyote ni mboga.
Because chicken, before it becomes food, it's running around and you can see it. Managu doesn't run. Stationary.
We are on course to getting chicken. But first, pick a managu.
You'll be full, Ashemi. You still eat. What's wrong?
There's food. What's wrong with you? That's the attitude we actually have. So when the president, for example, if we were to look at what the president promised in 2013 and what he promised in 2017, many of the things that he promised to do are on course. Has he delivered? That would be the question. So can we say, because you had promised that we are going to have universal health coverage, if by the time you're leaving office, well, we have a conversation here, we have a conversation there, and then we are on course to having universal health coverage, then you've delivered on your promise. Can we say that?
You know, Eric, what you're saying is not just challenging for the purpose of discussion. I'm actually looking at my life and the number of times I have something in my mind, but what I'm communicating is not the truth in my mind. I'm communicating what I think I ought to communicate.
Yes.
Yes? And when I'm challenging,
you're placating your audience.
Yes. And when I'm challenging, I'm asking, but have I not told you? And actually, I haven't. There's a conversation I'm having with myself in my head, and I think that conversation I've also had with other people, and I haven't.
You haven't actually,
No.
you haven't verbalized this
No,
thing.
it's in me and it's in my head.
You're thinking, people are waiting for you, but
Yes.
yeah.
And I've made a promise, and I haven't kept it, and I'm arguing, but wait, did I not explain? And actually, I didn't explain. I explained a part of it, but I didn't tell you the whole story.
Please find attached, and you didn't attach.
Yes, no, I didn't attach. And you're saying, Nani, but I thought you said this. I said, so you thought I said, so what did you hear me say? Yes. And yet, it's actually a really simple thing. I ought to say, I did not give you the full information.
Yes. Own up.
Which is it, man?
Now, what I ought to have done was told you this and this and this.
Own up.
And this.
Own up.
This is my
will
question.
Be okay.
You know, I asked the question: Is it wrong to tell the truth?
This isn't.
It's not. To say this is the situation. Because
own up.
Really, who wouldn't understand it? That the mechanics of these things rests in the hands of people that you thought would be able to go through. Who wouldn't understand?
And that effort's actually being made.
And that what we thought we would be able to do, even when I made the promise, that we've not been able. Who would not understand this? Then once given the 1, 2, 3s.
Explain why, for example, you're not following the key plank of your promise, which was reduction in tariffs. Why have you not reduced the tariffs?
Is there something
It's not
that
because
stops you
of the
from
rain.
doing it?
It's not because of El Nino, La Nina, whatever. Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, Eric Latiff City.
Good morning.
You know, we are struggling with people who know what they were doing. In fact, there was no rocket science here. The thing is, the people who own the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, the people who own Kengen, the people who own Kentraco, they are very influential, and they are the people. So these people come and say, before the president met this task force, we had this procurement, and we have decided it will give it will earn this profit for us. Now, if you do 15% by now, after the 50% comes the next time, already we shall have had our profit. So Ask yourself these questions. Who do this dubious procurement in KPLC? A procurement of transformers. Who owns these shares? Who has the biggest share in KPLC? Ask yourself these questions, and you see the answer in the early morning. Thank you very much, Eric.
All right. Thank you very much, Karanja. 0719-012-600. We are talking about this promise to reduce the cost of electricity. Now it has moved from 33% by the end of December to 15% by the end of December. And then the rest in the first quarter of next year. Zachary in Nakuru, good morning.
Oh, morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning, Zachary.
Oh, morning, Andrew there, and I hope all of you had a good Jamboree day.
Yes, we did.
Oh, thank you. So did I.
Good.
And now this is the point, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Andrew said that there are some political statements that are made everywhere. And one teacher told me, and that is why I'm very fond of teachers like Andrew there, that if you keep telling a lie, you yourself will even believe in it, okay? Let me remind you that somebody stood on a podium and said that by the end of the term, every child will have known what a tablet is, yeah?
Yes.
So elsewhere, they told some people, you are going to have a stadium here that can even accommodate the presidential jet, the American presidential jet, yeah?
Uh-huh.
I don't know, it is called the Air Force One. The very, very, very sophisticated jet, yeah?
Uh-huh.
And it hasn't happened, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So waking up tomorrow and going and telling another lie, it's just a formality. Some speeches are made for formality. That we have got a visitor here, we have invited because you're having a public holiday. And for us to seem to be doing something in formal, we must have formal statements, and it's a formality. So let me tell you, everybody, and advise everyone, yeah. Go look for even an additional amount that is going to be put in the bill, yeah, surcharged. You call it that? Hello?
Uh-huh.
Be ready to even pay for the charges that are going to accrue.
So it's going to rise. It's going to be higher.
In Kenya, no one is thinking about you as you are having some problems, and therefore let us try to subside it. Who is doing that? So,
thank you, Zachary.
I even told to listen to some speeches.
Thank you, Zachary. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. And have a nice day.
Uh-huh.
The headline on the Business Daily was actually precisely that. The headline's a question, a statement really. Why Uhuru's electricity price cut promise failed. And they're saying state retreats from forcing power producers to lower their tariffs on the wake of opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember what I talked about, and I said reality, okay? You task force can see how you can reduce it, and then it is this power producer, and this is what we need to do, and we have a contract, and you think you can do it. Then you start. Now, why the politics that I also mentioned comes in, you are a task force. There will be people, not they are or might, there will be people who have an interest in these IPPs who also happen to have political clout.
Yes.
So you have started on your path. This is what you want to do. They go above you. And they start lobbying. Suddenly, you're being told, so and so.
Itakuwa ngumu kidogo.
Yes. Is it possible for you to, just reduce? Don't remove the foot from the pedal. Just
ease it a little bit. Just
ease it.
Be easy on us.
Easy. Let's make this thing a conversation. Say, but I thought we had agreed we're going to do this. Given now underlying circumstances and situations, we need to reconsider this, which we hadn't said. No, but we had. That's why we said this.
This is where we are now, where we do not anticipate to be. But
and conversations also come into these discussions. You will find an IPP. They've been paying and raking in all this money. When they say they get political, in the political, the two of you call it silly season. Do you see a situation where an IPP individual, this is me now postulating and imagining, goes to some political bigwig and says, there's this matter of elections and election funding. We were just thinking, that A, B, C, D.
That we could finance, we could contribute X amount.
Oh, sure, excellent. He said, there's also this thing that could hinder, because we could actually give more.
Those are all anticipated, CT.
What makes you think so?
They are all, when you say that you're going to have a conversation with IPPs, you knew very well that you're going to have a pushback from the IPPs. And that's why I'm saying, when you're going to tell the president, we are going to have these negotiations with IPPs in 4 months' time, look at their contracts and change the contracts and effect changes to the power bill in 4 months, you lied to the president in the first place.
Actually,
and the president sat back and fully understanding all these things, because the president is not a stranger to Jerusalem. He's been a minister of finance. He's been head of opposition. He's been in this country and this system for a long time. He should have just told you, boss,
impossible here.
4 months' time, I have been in the Treasury. I know 4 months' time to review contracts and implement. I don't think that's possible. He should have just been from the very honest and said, push that thing and say, end of quarter one, in 6 months' time or in 7 months' time. Don't say 4 months' time.
Eric, do you know why I brought in the element of research and a situation that was perhaps a little interesting? It's for a simple reason. There are always things in these matters that no matter how clever you are, you will not have anticipated. And if you did, you couldn't have anticipated the extent to which it would actually come at you. That's really my point.
Watu watoke kwa serikali basi. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Muthui. I'm Dennis Aseto. Various candidates in the August 2022 general elections are being asked to adhere to the law banning them from participating in Arambis across the country. The UDA party is among other parties who have written letters to their candidates after a law banned them from participating in donations 8 months before the election. This means that any candidate who donates money to a church, school or even sponsorships is at risk of being banned from running for office.
The law says, Section 26 of the Elections Act, that a person who directly or indirectly participates in any manner in any or public fundraising or harambe within 8 months preceding a general election or during an election period in any other case shall be disqualified from contesting in the election held during that election year or election period.
However, IEBC chairperson Ofula Chebukati has clarified that the law does not stop candidates from fundraising for their campaigns. Now, the Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Nyeri, Anthony Muheria, has urged politicians to do everything possible to set a record so that they may be remembered for the development in the future. Speaking in Nyeri, Bishop Muheria said leaders should be role models in protecting the environment, achieving development and defending the weak in society. He has denounced politicians who engage in theft of public property instead of maintaining ethics. Now, just days after the death of Chief of Staff in the Office of Deputy President William Ruto, Ambassador Ken Osinde, many questions continue to surround his sudden death. Nyamira Senator Okoh Omogeni is questioning Osinde's death and is now calling on the government pathologist to perform an autopsy to determine the cause of death. However, Osinde's family has dismissed allegations of political interference in his death. Ambassador Osinde served as Chief of Staff in the Office of Deputy President William Ruto and passed on Friday after a short illness. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has appointed Ambassador Dr. Hassan Galiwango as the new Uganda High Commissioner to Kenya. Ambassador Galiwango, a long-serving key NRM party mobilizer and Director of Finance and Administration, replaces Phoebe Otala, who resigned. Over 250,000 pension and insurance customers will now enjoy superior and unified services across Kenya, Uganda, and Zambia. This is after one of the leading financial services providers of pension actuarial services insurance brokerage firm Octagon Africa announced additional investments of over 7 million shillings to ensure standardized quality assurance, integrated insights on customer behavior, and efficiently track customer feedback across the 3 markets. The group CEO Fred Waswa noted that integration of services across the markets will allow the company to create unified and consistent services to its customers despite one's location while offering a quick turnaround time. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is receiving a treatment for mild COVID-19 symptoms after testing positive for the viral infection. Ramaphosa started feeling unwell after leaving the state memorial service in honor of former Deputy President F.W. de Klerk in Cape Town. His office says the president is in good spirits but is being monitored by the South African Military Health Services of the South African National Defence Forces. The president, who is fully vaccinated, is in self-isolation in Cape Town and has delegated all responsibilities to Deputy President David Mabuza for the next week. The United States hit 800,000 coronavirus-related deaths as the nation braces for a potential surge in infections due to more time spent indoors with colder weather and the highly transmissible Omicron variant of the virus. The milestone means the U.S. death toll from this one virus now exceeds the entire population of North Dakota. Even with vaccines widely and freely available, the country has lost more lives to the virus this year than in 2020 due to the more contagious Delta variant and people refusing to get inoculated against COVID-19. Back home, we continue to urge you to get out there, get vaccinated so you could protect yourself and those that you love. The United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights is condemning the forced expulsion of asylum seekers and migrants by Libyan authorities, warning of the risks many faced when returned to the homes they fled to escape persecution. The large groups of Sudanese are among those forcibly deported from Libya over the past month. United Nations monitors most have been summarily expelled from the Ganfuda and Al-Kufra detention centers. Both centers are controlled by the Interior Ministry's Department for Combating Illegal Migration. The monitors say the Sudanese apparently have been transported across the Sahara Desert to the Libya-Sudan border and dumped there. The UN Human Rights Office says Libya's expulsion of the Sudanese asylum seekers and migrants without due process and procedural guarantees violates international human rights and refugee law. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, still looking good on most Nairobi streets this morning. Not too much in terms of traffic across the city. Just a little bit on Mombasa Road, but that is to be expected because of the construction. Apart from that, it looks really good. Enjoy the day in the city without too much traffic. That's going to be the first one in a very long time. So enjoy it for sure. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
It's 7 after
Situation
9.
Room,
Good morning.
the only way
Let's
to
hear
stop.
today's proverb from CT.
Ukiwa kwa giza usifiatue mshale.
Ukikatiwa stima usifiatue mshale.
Kwanza hivyo ukikatiwa stima
kwa kikingi, kwa transformer.
hakikisha
Do not shoot an arrow in the dark.
It is in your interest not to.
Okay. Okay. You know, you've talked about this a number of times, CT. And this is with regards to with the lifting of the curfew, with the lifting of the restrictions on COVID-19, with the festive season upon us. What are we likely going to see? And you've said it a number of times, is increased travel, many people getting that feeling of freedom at last, many people then feeling as if they can allow a little bit of carelessness and accidents are going to happen. Now, it is actually emerging that this is the case as we go into the festive season. At least 12 people have died in road crashes over the last 2 days, as this year's December emerges to be the deadliest in the last 4 years. Statistics from NTSA and police indicate that between December 1st and yesterday, at least 175 people, including those in the recent Mwingi bus tragedy, had perished. Over the same period, last year, 155 people lost their lives compared to 107 in 12 days of 2019. More people have also died on the road so far this year, with NTSA putting the total tally of 4,012 compared to 3,663 during the same period last year. And the statistics are likely to get grimmer as Christmas and New Year travel, including crash-prone night travel and festivities, set in.
You know, with the lifting of the curfew, it's not that, in my mind, that's not what was communicated, that curfew has come to an end. The communication that people wanted to believe and the one which they received was that COVID is no more. Because when I made a foray into public places, one of the things that I have seen, more and more people walking around without masks. The issue of social distancing is something that you talk about. It can be an academic discussion. But as for how we treat our holidays and considering how we treat Christmas and how we treat Easter and what Kenyans believe is a must in terms of what they ought to do, I wasn't making a prediction that was based on some heavy-duty research project followed by some equally heavy-duty analysis. I was just talking about a norm that one sees year in, year out, and which was brought to a halt last year by the restriction that COVID brought upon us. Now, it's likely to be infinitely worse because the problem with night travel, Eric, is this, people who own public transport or transportation, who are in the transportation business, will want to capitalize on the Christmas season. It means you can charge what you like. And with night travel, then you want to make as many trips as you possibly can. And you want to save on costs so you will not get fresh drivers. So many of the accidents that you see on the road arise from drivers who slept. They think that by chewing certain...
so slept on the wheel.
Usually that's what happens. Somebody just... And by the way, it's not as though you plan to sleep.
You just blink for long.
You just blink for long, and in your head you are driving. And because how many times do you see an accident in the plane and you're wondering...
How on earth did this happen?
Yes, it's clear, straight road. How did this person veer off? Now, talking to people who are in that line of business, one of the things that happens is precisely that. Gone are the days when there were clear rules that for long distance travel, somebody would have more than one driver. They'd make stops at certain places where the drivers would change positions. One driver. You want to make 3. Now, think of somebody who wants to make 2 or 3 trips. Mombasa, Kisumu, Mombasa, and you want to make 3 trips. What do you think is going to happen to that person?
Surely.
Of course, they'll be exhausted.
Precisely. Even if, let's take Nairobi. Nakuru.
Mombasa, Kisumu is what? 600 and plus kilometers?
Yes.
Close to 700 kilometers.
7 plus. Sometimes it goes up to Busia. Capitalize that whole route. Then you want somebody to go back again.
So they can capitalize on how much
Yes.
they make.
So you arrive in the morning, some form in the morning, and you sleep, and you're supposed to leave in the evening. Let's make it 2 trips. The problem is you haven't rested enough. You think you have, but you haven't. The toll that journey takes on your body is what needs to be mitigated against, not the amount of just sleep that you've had.
Sure.
So at some point, your body will say, enough. Now, my problem was given the aerosol nature of COVID, and given that when people get into festivities, all caution will be thrown to the winds completely. What awaits us? We've been having rallies. Now we have given people license to congregate in the numbers that they like. Forget this thing of you can meet only... that went out of the window a long time ago. People are going to meet in the numbers that they want and the numbers that they like. So what awaits us in January? A public health disaster. Because that's what's going to happen. It's not something that one needs to think about or even dramatize. It's just a reality that's facing us. So it's going to come amidst all the other issues that Kenyans are facing. Remember, December is a short month. In fact, this month has ended. It's ended. So we're in January. And January comes with issues, and then it's a long month. You tell me what's going to happen.
Also on the roads, the safety on the roads. And we see this every time when you go into the festive season. There are more and more people traveling. There are more vehicles on the roads.
Infinitely more.
That's a time when the public transport buses and matatus are trying to capitalize. So because of carrying more people, that's when the drivers will just be doing trips, round trips. So they'll not be getting enough rest. And we see a rise in accidents.
Yes, we do.
Now, among the things called the Michuki rules, what they were saying is, number one, for long-distance drivers, you must have 2 people in the bus. And there shall be inspections by police. And you shall demonstrate that this is a driver, and this is where they started the journey, and this is where they're going to change. Now, those things seem not to have been, enforced properly. But there's a period when you had the NTSA on the roads with their green Peugeots. And they would be somewhere and they're stopping all the buses and they're doing all these inspections, checking, okay, do you have a valid driver's license? Have you been on the road for long? Is there a log that shows when you started driving? At what point you're going to stop? Do you have a proper speed governor in place? All those things were being checked by NTSA. And then there was all this push being led by the police who were saying NTSA should go back to the office and deal with what they are dealing with, which is policy. We shall enforce. Now, for the sake of safety, should we bring the NTSA back to the roads just to assist the police officers to have more people on the roads? Bring NTSA. Let even have more police officers and county road marshals on the roads for enforcement of safety.
For a period of time?
For a period of time. At least for this festive period, because we've already started.
Look at the time before NTSA was instituted or then now had their presence on the roads. Compare that to the time before that. With the introduction of NTSA and others on the roads, did we see that there was a reduction in the amount of accidents that we saw?
We did.
Right. We saw that there was more order. We saw that at least there was a presence of minds amongst people to say that, okay, we ought to be careful because there's this authority on the roads and we need to, number one, I don't want to put myself or the lives of others in danger. And also knowing that there's somebody watching over you, then you're going to be a little bit more careful. Now, taking that into consideration, after NTSA was removed from the roads, did we see an upsurge in these cases? I remember the day on Mombasa Road, between the Way Bridge and the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, there were 10 accidents that had taken place, and we're talking about grisly accidents. 10 accidents in that space, and this was during the period that NTSA was not on the roads. So the question is, by the way, curfew or not was not an issue. So the question is, in order for people to behave right on the roads, do we then need an authority present to keep people in check and make sure that they're doing the right things? That people are not drink driving, that people are not behaving recklessly while driving, and that people are obeying rules. It would appear that this is what is needed in order to have this on the roads. We need a watchdog. You need somebody, at least the presence, the knowledge of such is what will...
It's a deterrence as well.
Absolutely. Is what will make people behave in a certain way.
There was an accident a couple of years back, a bus traveling towards Narok at a place called Ntulele. Remember? More than 40 passengers died.
They did.
And this is when now there was a whole push to actually have the NTSA. And NTSA established, NTSA to come in and work on safety on our roads. Now, we have seen the traffic police, in many cases, just the knowledge that there are traffic police at some place makes it a deterrent.
It is.
So just knowing that, for example, there are traffic police at in Naivasha, at the junction to enter Naivasha on your way to Nakuru, knowing that makes people driving down the escarpment slow down and maintain the speed limit required, 100 kilometers an hour.
Yes.
just knowing that down there, you will find those cops.
And they're waiting for you.
And they're waiting for you. And there's a speed gun somewhere along here. Just knowing that. Now, let's increase that. Let's have more on the roads.
You know, Eric, remember in 2018, there was a grisly accident in which some bishops of a Pentecostal church died. And on December 29th, the president, that's when this announcement that we keep speaking about, removing NTSA, saying they had failed to reduce road carnage.
Yes.
However, right now as we speak, there's a lobby group that has actually gone to court and is actually urging that the courts reinstitute NTSA, because they're saying, you're talking about a number of something like 4,000 people, okay, who have passed away. The truth of the matter is this: if you traverse our roads, and once upon a time, I did precisely that. In the area where I worked in what you call Luo Nyanza, and traveling from Nairobi to Kisumu almost on every 2 weeks or every week sometimes, okay, by road. Believe me, the presence of NTSA and the police is a huge deterrent. Because if you travel, you will know that at some point, you are going to come across them. So you are cautious about how you drive.
Yep.
Secondly, there is not the issue of how you drive, but the state of the vehicle you are driving. Because many of these accidents we speak about are vehicles that arguably shouldn't have been on the road in the first place.
Yes.
Okay? Now, when you've encountered traffic police and you've encountered NTSA, you will realize that just stopping and pausing and having a conversation and letting them do what they do before they urge you along. As you leave Nakuru, going towards on that Kisumu road, there's a place called Salga. There's a very straight road. That road was fraught with accidents for the longest time because it allows you to speed. Then they put bumps. And you knew at the end of it, there's somebody in between here, you are going to be stopped.
Yeah.
And there's a book and they'll tell you you're driving at this particular speed. When you leave more than that, that is Naivasha, as you're heading towards Nakuru. Somewhere in between, before Gilgil, there was a similar. You knew. You were at the Kerichi Road, you knew. At every stage, you knew. Now, you tell me, unless you're absolutely mad, or something absolutely wrong with you, you will understand that it is in your interest. And you know what I found with these police officers? Very polite, they will charge you. I know because I was charged twice for overspeeding. And actually, I was overspeeding. And I went to court. They charge you. Very polite about it. Very polite. Have a free bond. You're going to court. It's a matter that will be settled in court. Now, you tell me, do you think you have time to go to court? And by the way, it's in the middle of the week. It's not on a weekend.
Yeah, right. You are in the middle of business, right?
Yes, yes. And your case is not the only case in court.
Yeah. So you've been arrested in Naivasha and you are going to Homa Bay.
Yes. You're going to have to come back to attend to that. All I'm saying is it made you cautious and careful. Okay? Now, we sometimes forget that what these agencies are trying to do and what the police are trying to do is to get you to simply abide by the law. That's it. There are very many people on the road who drive, but only a few are caught or a few are stopped. So does it mean that the others were overspeeding and they were set free and you're the one whom they picked on? I don't think so. Usually it's because you're overspeeding. Now, I've often wondered why they haven't increased the numbers of testing sites where you can determine this. Because, it's almost regional. And with time, if you travel often enough, you will know. If they're not here, they're here. Same group. If they're not here, they're here. So you wonder, why did you just institute them? So that between Nairobi and Nakuru,
they're going to be here.
They'll be four.
Yeah.
Yes.
They kept moving. And the thing about NTSA is that they would also keep moving. So you'll find police have erected a roadblock here.
Yeah.
And it's not the same NTSA officers that you'll find when you come back a few hours later. It'll be different officers.
Yes.
So the whole issue of, having these officers with the police colluding to grab bribes
is removed.
It's
or
reduced
reduced significantly.
Yeah. So there's some order that comes about as a result of having this authority on the roads. You want to move.
There is order.
Yes.
Right. Because
there is order.
Whether it is imagined or otherwise, then you know, okay, are to behave a certain way, certain things will not happen. We will see less carnage. We will see less abuse of the roads. We will see less of it. We will see less death. We will see less accidents. So then maybe it is that it needs to be introduced.
Yeah.
We've already started to see the mess that is, because people are in a rush to get to and fro during this season and thereafter. We have schools closing. We have a lot of things happening at the same time. But there needs to be that. You need to have the watchdog on the roads, because we have shown that you're not able to use the roads and behave in a proper manner. We've shown. That one is clear. So you need somebody who's come, whether it's going to serve as a deterrent, whether it's somebody who's going to instill certain things in the practitioners. Either way, it needs to be done. Otherwise, we're going to have a bigger mess than we can imagine. Do you remember the times when at certain roundabouts they used to, erect mangled vehicles? Why do people have to get to that point?
Some of them are still there.
Yeah, they have to get to that point because it was getting too bad.
And
If you can't, look at this thing. It's like the days of the Assyrians in the days of the Old Testament, where they would line the streets with skulls and people that they had murdered, so that you can see this is who you're coming to deal with if you don't behave a certain way.
Let me ask the question. Do you think this flourishing and futuristic business of bribe taking would actually be a growth industry if people actually abided by the laws? If people actually did what they're supposed to do?
You wouldn't need it.
It wouldn't.
But you've shown that it can.
Yes, you'd kill it.
Yeah.
In fact, it flourishes because people break the law in abundance. And so they need that consideration, which then ends up with a bribe.
Yes.
But if people are law-abiding, what would you be asking for? I mean, what would the excuse for the bribe?
What would it be, really? I mean,
yes, you'd kill it. The industry would actually die. So every time Kenyans open their mouths to talk about how corrupt police are, they should pause for a single second. That same mouth, take some air in through that mouth, okay? As you take some through the nostrils, and consider, why do you think the business flourishes? It's a partnership. You break the law, to let you off, you pay so that you're let off.
We always are very good at excuses. That's what we were even talking about in the previous hour.
Yeah.
I meant to do this. I didn't do it. What's the problem? I'm still doing it.
And I'm going to do it.
I'm still going to do it.
See soon.
Okay, so I'm supposed to have been driving here at 110 kilometers per hour. Okay, I was just doing 130. I mean, and it's just
surely 10 more.
Because I was overtaking that truck that was moving slowly.
And you are drinking? Yes, I was, but I didn't drink much.
I didn't drink much.
But sir, you're weaving. No, the person ahead of me then who's weaving. Kumbe, it's you who's weaving. And in your weaving, you're thinking the guy is weaving, and actually they are driving fairly straight.
Yep.
Why didn't you stop that person? And you're thinking, now, so long as we are not law-abiding, what do we think is going to happen?
So 0719-012600. The question this morning is very direct. Should we bring NTSA back on the roads for this festive season so that we can see if we are going to reduce the number of road accidents this December as compared to previous Decembers? Already this December, on account of that accident in Mwingi, we have more people dying this December than have died in the last 4 Decembers. So if we continue like this, we have seen the number of accidents. 12 people have died over the last 2 days in various roads. Those that have been reported. I'm sure there are many more. 12 have died in the last 2 days on the roads. We are going into, this is it. We're in proper Christmas season now. Between now and the 31st of December, let's say the 5th of January next year, people will be traveling up and down the country.
Yeah.
Many of them will be on the roads. Should we bring NTSA back on the roads to ensure sanity and safety on the roads? We'd like to hear from you. 0719-012-600. We'll pick your calls shortly after this quick break. It's 27 minutes after 9. Our very good friend, Nick, who comments on our conversations every morning. With the previous conversation, he says, Eric, if you were keen enough, you'd have heard the president say that the next reduction in power tariffs is premised on IPPs agreeing to reduce the cost of power. That requires complicated negotiations with IPPs. Such negotiations can take time. Nick, it is not yesterday's conversation by the president that premises this. It's his first conversation in October. It was premised on a reduction further to conversations with IPPs. And they said within 4 months' time, we are going to have a reduction in prices. That's all we are saying. It has not happened. Just come and say it has not happened. Don't come and tell us it's on cause. Okay? That's it. It's 28 after 9. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room The only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked, and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, we're looking at cloudy conditions still in Nairobi. Highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly sunny at 19 in Nakuru. Highs of 26 and lows of 14. 15 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's mostly cloudy at 18. Sunny conditions in Eldoret, going to highs of 25 today. It continues to rain in Mombasa at 29. We'll see highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 30 in Malindi, where it's also raining now, coming down to lows of 25. Mostly sunny conditions at 25 in Kisumu with highs of 31, while in Kakamega it's sunny at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 17. Kampala is cloudy at 23, highs of 28, and we're looking at rain continuing in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 29 and lows of 24. Lagos, partly sunny at 27, highs of 35. 19 will be the high in a wet Johannesburg, coming down to lows of 14. And it's sunny in Kinshasa at 24. We'll go to highs of 32. 4 degrees and sunny out in Beijing. We'll see now lows of -8. And it's 9 degrees and cloudy in Paris. We'll see highs of 10, while 12 will be the high in London. It's mostly clear at 11. New York coming into Monday morning, 6 degrees and clear, highs of 12 and lows of 5.
Spice up your life.
Okay, Imara Daima still having a little bit of an issue there, inbound rather. Outbound also just a smidgen, but it shouldn't be too bad. Traffic looking good in most parts. Langata Road traffic just at the roundabouts because, you know, the road is a little bit narrower with all of that. Landis Road then going towards the Kamkunji roundabout is where we will see some traffic there. But the eastern part of the city looks pretty good, as does the western side of things now that everybody's gotten off James Gishuru. Going on to Waiaki Way shouldn't be too much of an issue either. All right, so through the day, that's what it looks like. It's what it should look like for most parts of today. Gearing up for tomorrow. How's that for a promise? SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
So about Showmax and documentaries. So there's a 3-part documentary on Showmax on the life and times of Patrice Lumumba and the work that he hoped to see done in the then Congo Democratic Republic leading up to his death. I think that's one of the things that I really want to watch.
Leading up to his murder.
His murder, yes. And what we never talk about since then. The dreams of a young man on what he hoped to see happen to his country.
You know, it's a tale that one sees on this continent of Africa. It's a tale one sees in Latin America. It's a tale one hears of even in Southeast Asia. Individuals who are idealistic. And they actually meant what they dreamt and what they said. And the underlying the discussion is not even their own people, but the interference of other nations. And the finger is often pointed at America. The UK seem to have a way of always escaping a finger pointing, and they are not usually far from that particular phrase. No, they are not. I mean, they are the former colonial masters. Are they not? Yes. It's something that is worth considering and worth watching. Yes.
It's called Lumumba. It's a 3-part series, a documentary on Patrice Lumumba. Then there's also another one on Mobutu
Sese Seko.
Kukubengo Wazabanga.
I mean, you asked the question, is that not a very informative way of spending time? Because it's a lazy part of the year when not much is required of you. So entertain your mind with some serious, solid information.
That's it. It's available on Showmax. Just subscribe to Showmax for as little as 300 shillings a month. And if you subscribe during this festive season, you get an extra month free.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
26 minutes to 10, the conversation continues. Safety on our roads during this festive season. What do we need to see happen? We want to hear from you. 0719-012-600. The proposal is to have NTSA back on the roads for this period of time, in addition to traffic police officers, so that we have more regular checks and inspections on the roads, speed limit checks, road vehicle safety inspection on the roads, so that we ensure that we have reduced accidents during this time.
Can I just tell you a couple of things that we're already seeing going on right now? I mean, but today we're on the 13th of December. Things haven't even gotten to that level where we can say they're a bit crazy. But we're already seeing so many of these accidents on the road this morning, and it's clear. And over the last couple of days, it is clear that some order is needed. Otherwise, like CT said, in terms of disaster in the coming weeks, it is going to be really bad. Kilifi North Sub-County Police Commander Jonathan Koech has urged drivers and road users to maintain discipline on the road following an accident along the Mombasa-Malindi highway last night that left 6 people dead. Right? There's another vehicle here that's showing, rather another picture that's saying, this vehicle hit my nephew last night and left him for dead in Karen. He's currently admitted in hospital. All right, yet another one. This morning, Grosstein at Allsops, inbound, 2 border borders and individuals lying dead on the road. Many fender benders along Thika Road this morning. This morning, when there's no traffic, people are just in a hurry to get wherever it is they need to go. A little bit of carelessness peppered with a bit of insanity. And then you have these terrible accidents that we're seeing on the road already. And things have not even gotten to the point where people are traveling. It is this week to this weekend.
When there's no traffic on the road.
It's this week to this weekend where people are going to start getting on the road and traveling. Then we're going to see that nonsense of doing back-to-back trips so that you can make an extra buck. Right?
Yes.
Things have not gotten to that level yet. And these are the things that we're already seeing.
And this week, people are already taking time off work and beginning to travel. Now, you tell me when it gets to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you get to next week.
Then
What
we
do you
get to
think you're
next
going to
week,
see?
the entire of next week, as people get here towards Christmas. Alex in Naivasha, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, Alex.
Yeah, I'm doing well this morning.
Alex, if you switch off the radio in the background, it will reduce the confusion.
Oh, let me. It is Lagos. Let me stop you to talk.
Yeah.
I think now you are.
Now we are good.
Now we are good.
Now we are good.
Okay. Now, my take on whether to reinstate NTSA back on our roads is that we should first of all ask ourselves the reason why they were withdrawn from the roads. And one of the reasons was that the NTSA had failed to add road carnage. And I remember during that fateful day, there was an incident at Sargas. Whereby they were accused of chasing after a truck that was that had gone or that had break traffic rules. So what happened is that the truck during that chase ramped into other vehicles which were heading towards the side of the Sargas. And of course, a huge campaign. People came out to condemn the NTSA, and subsequently, the president ordered them to get off the road. So, and I remember during that time, normally I am a truck driver as well, and most of my
Alex?
Pity, just when he was about to
Right.
Just when the story was starting. If you can see, we can get Alex back on the line. 0719-012-600. What is Greed saying?
Great says, absolutely. The recklessness exhibited by Kenyans demands that NTSA is reinstated on our roads. Kenyans have the predisposition to be indisciplined across the board, hence the need for enforcement, sometimes forcibly.
I mean, consider, for instance, when our culture is not one of acquiescence to the law, but of disobedience to it, knowing that we have an alternative called bribery. Okay? Now, when that has been made the norm, okay, how many people do you think are going to be driving on the road who actually don't know how to drive and shouldn't drive? They have a license which they actually did not acquire legally. Now, but they're driving. Now, you tell me, those are dangerous people. Absolutely dangerous and
they're a
deadly.
danger to very many people.
Yes.
There's somebody who basically just woke up, put their family in a vehicle, and they are observing all the rules.
All.
But then this nincompoop just comes and veers off their side of the road, comes and rams into this and
And there's
kills
lots
off
of
an
lives.
entire
Yes.
family. We saw that. Remember there was an accident on the Eastern Bypass, the Kamakis Road,
Yeah.
where an entire family was wiped out by
Was
a
wiped
truck.
off. Yeah.
Yes.
One truck. Yeah, I remember.
Hey! You know that these things that leave you speechless.
And you just want, okay, so you have tried your best. You are on the road. You are law abiding. You are conscious. You are not on the phone. You are not distracted. You are focused. But then this other person is drunk, is in a hurry, is reckless, they cause your death.
Is that not usually the case? And that is why people who actually have gone through the process of learning how to drive through registered schools and gone through the process are told, please, it's not a question of being right. It's considering that the other driver may not be in his right state of mind.
Yes.
Because if you insist on being right, you will die. Yes. Someone else is going to do something crazy. So be cautious for yourself and somebody else. Just say, you go ahead. As I said, remember the story I was telling about being on the roads. The grisly accidents you witness, literally witness. And you get to a point where you can tell this guy
is about to happen.
He's not going to reach the destination. And indeed,
You pass and there's an accident that happened involving this guy.
usually it's difficult to pass. You know why? Just pass by. Some of them involve families, as Eric is saying. And it's not at one vehicle. It is 3 or 4 vehicles. And you can see, you drive ahead, stop, walk back. Because in your mind, you think there's something I can do to help here. And you saw it. The others which are fortunate is where you find somebody on the road and there is steam coming out of the bonnet of the car. You have a car you don't use very often. You are not certain or clear about what you ought to do to maintain that car. You put it on the road, you want to go to Mombasa. If you reach Machakos, you're lucky. But the car will tell you, I'm not going. For obvious reasons. Now, why do you have a situation where we seem to have normalized law breaking? Why? Because that's really what we're discussing here. Why would this discussion take place if we were essentially law abiding? And that the majority of us do precisely that and just a few. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
You're seeing more and more people. Sami in Nakuru.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
My thoughts on this is bringing back the NTSA will not solve anything at all. Our biggest problem lies with the police service. In terms of the corruption that has been there all through, because if you look at the speed limit, so many speed limits that have been put by Kenha on our highways right now are if you do the Nakuru Nairobi highway is the 50 speed limit. That's where the police are targeting because they know most of the people and they don't look at that speed limit for the 50. So once they arrest you, very few people go to court. So, like, I'll give you an incident. I was arrested about a month ago. I was heading to Kericho. So, and I was like, I didn't see the sign for the 50. And he said, no, you should approach the center with caution. The post is there. So there's only, tupatie 1,000 tumalizane na hii maneno. And I told them, for me, I don't give out bribes at all. So if you're going to court,
let's go.
It's fine. So they told me, kwa sababu hiyo maneno haupeani hongo, wewe enda. And it's like, well, is that the way to go? Because they're even negotiating for 500 shillings. So even if you bring back NTSA, it will be the same cartel.
But let me ask you a question, because really I must.
Yes.
You don't see the role of the public. You know the speed limits and you break them. So do the police urge you to break the speed limits? Do they help you break the law? I mean, it's an industry that's being fed by Kenyans who are breaking the law. You have given a perfect example of you putting your foot down and saying, I didn't see this. But if people didn't break the law, how would the issue of bribery come into a discussion?
It will not be there. But now the problem, like I've said before, look at what the police are doing. The speed limits where they're being put. So it's not where the black spots are. Look at where Salga. Salga, they tried to manage the whole scenario. And Salga even does not have the most steep place like any other place. But Kenha came up with a solution to expand the road, and it's good. Look at Nakuru Nairobi highway. Don't dare travel on Sunday. A 3-hour journey is coming now to 4.5 to 5 hours.
So 6 hours.
Yes, to 6 hours. If you're coming from Nairobi on Friday, it's a mess. So our government is one that is failing. Expand the roads, do a few things, and sensitize the people about road safety every single day. Our children are coming back home in a week's time. What mess will we be expecting? So many people will be trying to rush to take their children for the holidays at the homes and the rest of the stuff.
Thank you, Sami.
Thank you very much. Have a beautiful holiday.
You too. Dennis, good morning.
Good morning to you, Eric, City, and Awanya Ugenya.
Good morning.
How are you people doing?
We're very well, thanks, Dennis.
Okay. Now, I'm listening to the topic, but I've got a feeling we're also not talking about one of the most serious things that are happening. Number one, we have created a very serious cartel ring out of these border guys. And they have become so dangerous on the roads. I have seen the government trying to put, especially on the new roads, they have put road shoulders to the side and lanes in which border riders can use. Why is the government not enforcing that particular law? The other day, again, that is ailing our country is that we do not follow road rules. Even when people complain, we do not follow road rules. We only follow when the policeman is there.
But the road rules are there, isn't it? They're there, right?
The road rules are there.
Okay.
Does everybody know them?
My car right now is in the garage. Why? Because when it went green on Ngong Road and I moved, a matatu coming from Ngong, coming down just after junction, hit me when because the guy was jumping light and hit me on the side. So the problem is that we are not following road rules. They say they're going to put cameras that can capture such things. Those cameras are just there. We are still in court, in and out with Safaricom. Nothing is happening. So unless we enforce those things and also people within their mindset set themselves, then road rules are going to work in this country. I remember there's a time, actually, CT, you're the one who told us this story, that you were going to a burial.
Yes.
And you kept being stopped by policemen, and at some point you decided to overspeed.
Yes.
And they caught you and you asked them, why didn't you leave early? And you said you've been stopped by a number of policemen. Do you remember telling us that story?
Yeah, I have many such stories, but I do remember, yes. And I was stopped and I ended up not attending the funeral.
Exactly. So if we have the kind of discipline that we are supposed to have, then you will also realize within yourself, let me leave early. There is no way you're going to go to Mombasa Road 30 minutes to a meeting and expect to get there early.
No.
Yeah.
So what's the solution then? Okay, look, Dennis, we have an issue on our hands. Between now and the 31st of December, you are going to have very many more people on our roads. Just like you said, children are closing school, they're coming home. We have people then traveling for Christmas festivities. We're going to have more people on the road. What do we do to make sure that we save lives now?
Number one, just let's get into a mentality. Don't be in a hurry on the road. Keep to the speed limits. Don't overtake carelessly.
But Dennis, this is the thing. This is not a message that has started,
it's not a new message.
It's been there forever. It's been there. But we can say it. It sounds nice. You can even put it on a Christmas card. But the truth of the matter is that people say, oh, yes, very nice. However, I've got to be somewhere. We're going to have people who are traveling, for example, on Christmas Day and want to rush to be able to, so that you say you were at home for Christmas kind of thing. People are going to hear the message and say, oh, that's very nice. However, guess what? You're getting in the vehicle at 3 o'clock so you can be wherever you are in the afternoon and do a journey to come back. So people can hear it, but in terms of the practice of it, it's a totally different situation, my friend.
Genya, the solution to this thing is very simple. You know, Kenyans, unfortunately, we are used to a lifestyle of, even when you're young, we are used to a lifestyle of, I will do this when my parent is coming in, that's when I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That being said, in fact, it's like even when, let's say there is an incident that happens in town, or a building has gone down, people will go and gather there.
Yeah.
An ambulance cannot pass through. A fire engine cannot pass through because of crowds. What will happen is people will only start moving when they hear JSU are coming and whipping people. That's when someone who is living in Umoja is getting into a matatu going to Westlands in confusion. What you do is that put and reinforce the policemen there. Just catch 1 or 2, 3 people. The rest of the guys will get the
message. Dennis, can I ask you a question?
We'll get the message.
This is a question that we keep asking. It's a back and forth. Must Kenyans be policed to their last movement, or can Kenyans get around their head to be simply law-abiding?
For them, one precedes the other.
In the next 50 years, if they introduce in CBC, it will happen for those ones who will be there. Unfortunately, we've grown up like that.
It's cause and effect. Have more policing, then people get it in their heads. Then you can reduce the policing because it's already in their heads. Right now,
we are used to it.
Yes.
You'll only go for prep when the teacher on duty is coming into class. You'll only read when
exams are tomorrow.
Exams are just about around the corner. That's when you'll read. You'll only obey traffic rules when a cop is watching at you. You'll only, you know what I mean?
You'll get to work early when HR introduces clocking in, biometric.
Yeah. When the boss is out of the office and there's a conference, you'll not leave at 5, you leave at 3 because no one is watching. So unfortunately, it's already within us, and it starts from when we were young. And that's how even corruption entrenched into our society.
Okay.
It starts by small things. Your mom beats you, you start crying, and then she says, oh, Titi, who has beat you? You point someone else.
Thank you,
that's
Dennis.
how corruption got into our society.
Thank you. Have a lovely holiday. 0719-012-600. So there are very many things. It's a long journey of reintroducing culture, but I'm still focused on the next 15 days.
I used to believe what Dennis believed. And I was of the same mindset. I said this one. And then Kibaki became president. And I saw changes, and I keep saying that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. And there's something that I learned from it during that whole period. That people make do with what comes easiest. But it doesn't mean that intrinsically that's what they believe. No. It's just what utility demands and requires. But if you give them an opportunity to actually do what is right, they will do so. I saw this with the Matatu strike. When people said, you know something, we will walk. It is okay. Yes. Now, that, for me, I looked and I said, you mean to tell me people were willing to do this all along? But you've heard me say this story before. You go to get a passport and it is the simplest process. Simplest. And you're even being assisted. No, do this, move here, do this, pay here, do the other, come at this time. Now, it's entrenched. You know this thing that people talk about to the point where we now have it online. This thing was it wasn't like this before. Getting a passport was a teeth-pulling exercise. You dreaded going to get a passport because you're not really even sure you'd actually get anywhere close to it. Something which is your right. I am saying because I have actually witnessed changes taking place. I've witnessed. Okay? Now I'm witnessing something that is very unique and very good.
You know what you were witnessing? Let's say even the Matatu era.
Yes.
Michuki kept repeating this. Michuki said, I have not written a new law. Parliament has not given me a new law. There have been laws in existence. All I'm doing is enforcing
the law.
these laws. Yes. And all I'm saying is the police officers on the roads shall enforce the law. People said yes. People boarded onto Matatus and they wore safety belts. Because they knew that there's a cop who is going to board onto this Matatu, and because you don't have safety belts, the entire Matatu will be taken to the next police station.
They know. All of it.
All of it.
And you'll not go to court.
Yes. That started reducing. Why? Because police officers stopped boarding the Matatus.
No, Michuki stopped being Minister for Transport.
And then the police police did not have somebody enforcing.
No.
And the police also did not enforce.
But Eric,
so I'm saying it's enforcement.
There's something that is also happening in our political sphere. Remember how we always assume there'd be regional conflict and there's certain things you couldn't do, you couldn't go to this place. You know, that thing has died. You see people going everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah.
Very small skirmishes. Now, you tell me, those who have for the longest time propagated this thing of, you can't do this, you can't go here, you can't. And yet, you're now hearing more conversation. Stop telling us about this. You come and tell us yourself. Want to hear you. Come and tell us. Stop talking to those people. Come and tell us the Wananchi. Now, if someone had told you 10 years ago, or in 2017 for that matter, that such a conversation would be taking place, would you have believed it to be so? You would have said, stretching it. And I'm saying, these things people think are impossible are not.
They're not impossible.
That's what I am saying. They are not.
Yeah.
With
enforcement,
Eric,
they're doable.
Anthony
in Mombasa.
Right now. Do it now.
Okay, Anthony.
Anthony, good morning.
Good morning to you, my friend.
How are you?
I'm fine. What I wanted to clarify is the reason why people are not focusing on laws that have been put in place is because of political atmosphere. For example, even the NTSA was removed from the road because of political interference. They started complaining, this NTSA thing is serving someone's political ambition, you see. And that is the reason why people have started tolerating everything that has been put in place, even road traffic lights. For example, if you come to Mombasa along Kongowea Lights Road there, you find that it's supposed to, for the other side of the road to stop moving for the others to pass. They are just colliding. You find a space, you just move. You just maneuver. So that is a problem. And when you replace you bring back the NTSA, the road users also knows they are using the other route. For example, the road from Mombasa to Kilifi or via Mtwapa, they are leaving this road because they know that NTSA is always stationed at Bamburi Junction, you see. They are not using this route now. They are using the Shanzu route going to Jamboree area back to life. So, they are dodging this route. So these people do not know actually what this particular vehicle or driver, whether he is serving the right person, you see. But what I wanted to emphasize is If at all the law has been put, each and every person should be disciplined enough to follow what has been put in place. Because all these things, at the end of the day, they are serving their purposes and life is going to be conserved.
That's true.
There should be no shortcut about it.
Asante sana, Anthony.
And Kenya also needs to be there is a lot of democracy, my friend. At least we should serve with a thumb. I like former President Daniel Arap Moi.
Thank
When
you,
he
Anthony.
says something,
Coming
we
to the
have
end of the
follow.
show. Thank you. Point
Yeah.
made.
Too much literacy.
Asante sana. Kenya's biggest conversation, it continues. So, City, your last point, if it's not about enforcement, what is it about? It's about the people themselves.
It's about leadership.
Okay.
Yes.
Leadership?
It is about leadership.
Yeah.
Yes.
Higher. Tell us about today's proverb.
This proverb speaks of consequences. You shoot an arrow in the dark. Well, the likelihood is that best case scenario, you'll hit the target. Worst case scenario, you'll hit someone you hadn't intended to, or you'll hit nothing, which means wasted effort. So when we talk about consequences, that's the discussion we're having here. Failed leadership, inconsistent leadership, leadership that is misguided, leadership that doesn't look into practicalizing what they say, we then have this situation where we are normalizing things which are actually wrong, and we are saying it is okay.
It is okay.
Because it's the easiest and the simplest way to go.
Okay. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. We'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. live on SpiceFM around the country and on SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can join the conversations on Instagram as well. Have a lovely day, folks. It's now 10 a.m.